There's less than a week left until the Beastmaster exam, and the next day they're going to have a small assessment. Everyone already has contracts with their first beasts, so the teacher said they should rest that day and start preparing. With the exam approaching, some students are really nervous because with the abilities they have, it's hard to become an apprentice. A blonde kid with spiky Super Saiyan hair wants to get into a good school since his abilities are above average. The boy next to him isn't that confident and thinks he'll end up as a regular person. The one who seems to be our protagonist is thinking about all this. He doesn't know how he's supposed to fit into this story since he's a time traveler. Everything happened a week ago. Thanks to this body's memories, he understood the world he lives in. Hundreds of years ago, a catastrophe occurred and several beasts appeared from a dimensional portal. Humanity tried to fight them, and during the conflict they learned how to tame these creatures. That's how the beast tamer profession was born, completely reshaping reality. Beast tamers gained huge notoriety in the world, and the biggest dream of the youth here is to become a great spiritual master. At 18, young people form a contract with their first beast. The stronger their spiritual power, the stronger the beast they contract. But none of that applies to our boy because this body already formed its first contract with a tiny, extremely cute snowball-like creature that wouldn't hurt a soul. Besides not being lethal at all, it can't evolve, so this young man's destiny is to live an ordinary life. Other time travelers end up with more luck. Our boy has no idea how he ended up in this situation. A student approaches him saying that living as a regular person is actually pretty good since you don't have to take unnecessary risks. They mock him, saying his little snowball could help sell ice cream. That irritates our protagonist. This situation seems to have activated the system that came with him and he feels confused, wondering why the system took so long to load. Now he starts celebrating because this is going to change his life completely. The first thing he does is check his status window. Whenever he achieves something, he receives rewards. He also checks Snowball's stats. When it reaches 100% growth, Snowball will evolve, which is really interesting because he believed evolution was impossible for it. The first evolution path he can choose is the Giant Path, focused on physical combat and ice element mastery, reaching up to rank 5. The other path is the Queen Path, focused entirely on ice mastery, and it can reach King rank. He's wondering if this is some kind of secret evolution route. Looks like you won't need to set up a little stand to sell ice cream after all. Since the Queen Path can reach higher levels, that's the one he'll choose. He decides to use some achievement points to help his creature evolve. Right now, he can only claim one reward, using 100 points to strengthen Snowball. Pointing his hand at it, the process finally begins. Slowly, Snowball starts to strengthen. He succeeds. Snowball is now at stage 2, which fills him with excitement. Even so, not much has changed in the little creature. He still needs to get Ice Essence and Jade Spirit minus 20 units of the first item and just one of the second. Nobody would ever imagine those materials would make Snowball evolve. Now he needs to earn some money to buy those materials, and a few boys mock him. Our protagonist tells Snowball not to worry about their comments because when it's time for the test, they'll do just fine. It seems the boy who was mocking our guy is incredibly jealous and didn't like being ignored. He also belongs to a very influential family in the region, and our protagonist knows he should avoid trouble with the Jang family. The jealous boy says they'll soon find out who the real trash is. Those words end up triggering an unexpected reaction. The jealous boy and his friends start mocking even more, convinced that anything is impossible for our protagonist. After that humiliation session, a blonde girl shows up to scold Jang. Her name is Guan, and the boys say they're not afraid of someone they consider trash like our guy. Entering them once again, our boy leaves. There's no point arguing with idiots. He needs to go to the pet store to buy some items, and the girl can go with him if she wants. Our boy quickly realizes these items are really expensive. Months of savings disappear in just a few minutes. The blonde asks if he'd like to have dinner at her house because the invitation is from her mother. She also seems to have some kind of feeling for him, and wants to know if he can accompany her for tomorrow's exam. He says yes, since he also has to take the same test, which makes the blonde extremely happy. They say goodbye, but she's clearly excited for the next day. Inside his home, our boy realizes Snowball's evolution is going to be a very expensive process. He immediately gives the items to be absorbed. The process happens quickly, and Snowball's body starts to grow. Then a bright light completely blinds him. Snowball's form begins to change, and to his surprise, Snowball now has a human body. She's become a small girl. With the rank 2 Ice Crystal Spirit, this time the creature can attack. Our boy is thrilled with this outcome since now he can actually pass the exam. He's still stunned that Snowball jumped an entire level. The average among students is for their creatures to be in stage 5 of the first level, which makes this even more impressive. Just by standing near Snowball, he can feel the cold she emits. Her strength definitely increased more than expected. If the system hadn't revealed what Snowball needed, no one would ever spend such expensive materials on such a weak creature. What he did was the right gamble. Spiritual crystals boost the pet's spiritual power, while the strength crystal boosts the user's power. Our boy immediately puts the ingredients in his mouth. In seconds, the transformation starts. Now he feels power he never had before, his physical and spiritual strength rising. He doesn't feel as cold anymore. Instead, he feels his strength overflowing. Even if he doesn't need to fight, strength is only a problem for those who don't have it. In case of danger, he'll know how to handle himself. While he's still thinking about all this, Snowball hugs his leg. It's time to use all the achievement points so Snowball can become even stronger, reaching stage 4 of level 2. The evaluation the next day is definitely going to surprise a lot of people. Now the boy walks casually through the streets with his friend. She wants to know if he's prepared for the exam, and he says he needs that qualification too. She seems to really like how enthusiastic he is, noticing the motivation he's showing. She never imagined he'd have the courage to do something like this. Our protagonist says people are always changing. Besides, she has no idea that he's a transmigrator. Some girls notice that the talented third-year student is there. They're talking about the blonde who's completely in love with our protagonist, saying she's always walking around with that loser. One of the girls heard that a popular guy had confessed to the blonde and got rejected. Out of jealousy, she said she couldn't understand what was so interesting about her. Our boy just quietly watches all that gossip. Finally, it's revealed the two are cousins, and because she's so talented, she has lots of admirers and plenty of haters too, but she doesn't care. Worried, the blonde wants to know if our boy is really going to use Snowball in the exam. He confirms it, saying Snowball shouldn't be underestimated, hugging him in a way that looks dangerously affectionate and extremely questionable in Alabama. She says that if they both pass, they're going to celebrate. While they're practically crushing our protagonist with that over-the-top affection, she says there's a shock she wants to visit. Their moment gets interrupted by a pair of background characters. The ugly girl accuses the blonde of stealing her boyfriend. Annoyed by the accusation, the blonde immediately asks who these two even are and who the boyfriend is supposed to be. The ugly girl says her boyfriend is Jiao Hong, but the blonde can barely remember who that guy even is and says she's not interested in him. Never was. The ugly girl refuses to believe it, saying her boyfriend has been reduced. With no time to waste in that place, the blonde drags our protagonist by the hand because they have more important things to do. At that moment, the other background character grabs him by the shoulder, saying he didn't give permission for them to leave, and if he keeps seeing his cousin being disrespected, he'll have to disrespect someone too. Showing an extremely murderous aura, the blonde strongly recommends that the jerk take his hand off her cousin. He instantly feels an overwhelming pressure. Instead of backing off, he chooses the most violent option, trying to punch a woman. But he gets completely stopped by our protagonist, something his cousin wasn't expecting. The ugly girl tells her cousin to stop messing around because everyone knows that guy is a loser. The jerk tries to throw some insults, but he can't stop sweating because he felt the strength in our boy's hand, who's clearly about to do something interesting. He slams his fist into the guy's stomach with brutal force. The jerk flies through the air like a garbage bag, shocking the ugly girl. While the guy struggles to stand up, our boy walks toward him. He says he's the blonde's cousin, and if the jerk wants to do anything to her, he'll have to deal with him first. At that moment, the background character starts to soil himself little by little, and the cousin of our protagonist is stunned by that show of strength. It was so intense her whole body reacted. Not even our boy expected to get that much stronger after using those items, and since the humiliation session wasn't enough, the blonde jerk decides to attack. This time he's going to use his spiritual energy. He manifests a kind of blue flame-like glow in front of all of them. But watching closely, neither our protagonist nor his cousin looks impressed. Standing before them is a ghost wolf that's still only rank 2. Fully convinced of his wolf's power, the jerk asks if they really want to challenge him. Snowball is still rank 1 but already reached stage 7. Her chances in that fight aren't great, and our boy is already thinking of alternatives, but his cousin chooses violence. Before she can act, she sees our protagonist step in her way, which surprises her a lot. She wants to know if he's really going to put Snowball into a fight, but he doesn't want her to get hurt because that would affect her evaluation, so he'll handle the situation himself. The ugly girl starts smiling mockingly, convinced our protagonist has lost his mind because the worst student in the whole city is eager to learn a violent lesson. The guy who will soon be bald ordered his wolf to attack. Meanwhile, our protagonist is calling Snowball over for a violent session. A bright flash appears in front of the wolf. The creature is immediately confused because its entire body is now freezing over. In the middle of all that ice, little Snowball appears, and right in front of her, the ghost wolf is completely frozen solid. These actions leave the background characters speechless. This should be absolutely impossible. Even the protagonist's cousin is wondering if that really is Snowball standing there. Our protagonist confirms that little Snowball managed to evolve. The poor background character tries giving commands to his ghost wolf, but the creature doesn't move an inch. Snowball is no longer just a snowball, she's become an ice spirit, and showing her overwhelming power, she completely destroys the wolf's body. Its remains scatter all over the ground, leaving its owner furious. He can't accept being defeated by mere students. Their beast should only be around stage man of rank 1 at best, yet his wolf is dead. The ugly girl wants to know what they should do now, and the guy says he didn't expect to fight a high-class creature. It's time to run. But our protagonist releases a dark aura and asks if he gave them permission to run. They're immediately consumed by fear. They're completely defenseless against what that ice spirit can do. This forces the background character to make the most rational decision of his entire life. Completely humiliated, he bows to our protagonist and apologizes for everything he caused, admitting his mistakes. But our boy says he should apologize to someone else. The background character instantly turns and bows to the protagonist's cousin, begging forgiveness for the huge mess he created. The ugly girl still doesn't understand the reality of what's happening. Trying to snap her cousin out of it, she ends up getting slapped. He tells her to apologize too. Faced with this family issue, the cousin just tells them to leave already. they wasted enough time. With the fight finished, our protagonist walks over to the ice spirit and gives her a little pat while watching the two idiots run away in a panic. His cousin is genuinely excited by what she just saw and wants to know how he managed to do something that cool. The ice spirit's power is indeed impressive, but since their time is short, he says they'll talk about it later. They need to take the exam. Finally, they arrive at the Imperial Beast Association. Many students are amazed by what they see there. There's a huge monument called the Origin Stone. It's much bigger than what they saw in the books, and some want to know what makes it so special. This is the last exam of the year, and some people will lose their qualification forever, while others will get into the academy and live completely different lives. With all the students gathered, a door opens at the back of the room. A man with an extremely ugly beard greets everyone. He says that they've all received small bronze coins with the words low, medium, high, and superior. These coins are the key to entering the Origin Stone's dimension. They need to choose the difficulty of the challenge they'll face. The harder it is, the better the rewards. He then tells them to look carefully at the screen built into the stone. At the highest difficulty, the beast growth rate is 30%, and it's possible to obtain a second creature, among other benefits. Many students are excited about the rewards, and some are thinking about choosing the highest difficulty. Our boy's cousin wants to know which difficulty he'll pick now, but the old bearded man has a piece of advice for everyone. The choice will determine their development forever, and they should select a difficulty that fits their current level. The cousin studies her coin very carefully, as if unsure of what to choose. Most students go for the lowest difficulty. Only one chooses hard, and of course our protagonist chooses superior. This immediately makes the background characters start mocking whoever made that choice, saying the person must be delusional, and naturally it was our boy. They say that whoever picks the superior difficulty will never be able to take the test again. The cousin notices what happened. Shocked, she rushes over to ask him if he really chose the superior difficulty. If he fails, he won't get another chance this year. The background characters mock him even more, but our boy says he knows exactly what he's doing. These poor NPCs with limited screen time showed up just to belittle him. Even the teacher walks over and asks if he didn't hear the instructions. Students need to choose carefully. Only then does our protagonist say he made his decision after thinking deeply about it. Filled with disbelief, the hideously bearded teacher asks if he truly believes he can pass the superior difficulty. Overflowing with conviction, our boy says yes. The teacher ends up liking the kid's arrogance. He already gave his warning, but he can't stop children from playing with fire. Now that everyone has made their choice, he finally gives the main announcement. The test begins, and everyone must take their positions. The students sit in the hall, and mysterious energy starts flowing from the stone, making the portal grow larger. The same mysterious energy surrounds all the students, transporting them to another dimension. Meanwhile, the teacher is trying to memorize our protagonist's name. In that other realm, our boy appears in some kind of arena. He gets up carefully, realizing he's truly inside the virtual dimension of the Origin Stone. The students have been informed that any injuries suffered inside that dimension won't affect their real bodies. This fills him with confidence. He doesn't need to worry about anything. At that moment, the system informs him that he has an unclaimed achievement, his first victory. He's surprised he can use the system here too. His reward is 100 achievement points and a spiritual crystal. He immediately claims them. Thanks to that, he boosts his spiritual attribute, and Snowball's growth rate jumps to 44%. And since he's tired of calling her Snowball, from now on she's Popsicle. With this power-up, our protagonist's chances of victory skyrocket to indecent levels. He waits for what happens next in the arena. Then a door opens. A large and threatening creature approaches them. A fire lizard, still rank 1. Our boy expected something harder and underestimates the lizard's strength, but he's caught off guard by a huge blast of fire. He immediately orders Popsicle to freeze it. Ice crystals are produced and instantly launched toward the incoming flames. The clash between water and fire creates a huge cloud of smoke immediately. When it clears, it becomes obvious the fire lizard has already been sent to its own ice sky. Our boy is really surprised by how strong his attack became. There are a total of 5 levels in this difficulty, and he needs to keep overcoming each challenge. The next creature he faces resembles a mummy. Just like the fire lizard, it's also rank 1. For other challengers, this might be a bit difficult, but for our protagonist, it's nothing more than playtime. Outside, the teacher watches everything carefully. Our boy defeated the mummy so quickly that we didn't even get to see what it was capable of. Suspicious of the kid's potential, the teacher thinks maybe ice attributes gave him an advantage so far. The real challenge is still coming. This time, the gate that opens for our protagonist looks like the bars of a prison. A creature made of wood approaches, its eyes large and unsettling. It's a plant-type beast, already ranked 2. The teacher believes that although our protagonist creature is ranked 2 as well, it probably hasn't passed stage 1, unlike the enemy creature, which is stage 2, so he assumes our boy will lose. The monster rushes forward, ready to end the fight immediately, but it doesn't notice Popsicle's eyes glowing with a threatening light. Our boy realizes that because of the attribute disadvantage, ice alone won't be enough. The wooden creature uses its branches to attack viciously, managing to grab Popsicle's entire body. Now that she's restrained, the monster moves in to finish the battle. Watching from outside, the teacher feels confident his prediction was right. This is the end for the kid. But within seconds, he realizes he's completely wrong. Even though the creature is plant type, its body begins to freeze. That's the domain of extreme cold, Popsicle's ability. our boy's team doesn't rely on just one skill. It's time to counterattack. Several ice spears are launched toward the monster, forcing it to shield its head with its arms while surrounded by a massive amount of ice. As the monster tries to figure out what to do next, more ice forms behind it, piercing straight through its body in a brutal strike. With the enemy defeated, our protagonist clears another level. Only 2 more enemies remain before he completely annihilates the challenge. Outside, some students begin waking up. One complains loudly he almost beat his enemy, but fell short. Another laments being defeated. The 5th level of the lowest difficulty is already very tough because it requires beating a rank 1 creature at stage 6. Still, some students are managing to clear the challenge, which fills a few background characters with envy. Then they notice something important. One of the stages now displays the Cruel Claw Beast. Students rush closer to the Origin Stone because they know this monster is rank 2. It doesn't take long for them to realize that challenge belongs to our protagonist, who is in the superior difficulty, and he's already reaching the final battle. Finally, our boy reaches the last level. Outside, the background characters try to understand how he can be this strong. One of them recalls every top student and still has no idea who our protagonist even is. Then the cousin's eyes finally open. She cleared her challenge and will now become a beast tamer apprentice. She immediately wants to know what happened to our boy, realizing that all the other students have gathered to watch something interesting unfold. After realizing our boy has already reached the final stage of the superior difficulty, his cousin becomes convinced he's incredible, but no one can identify the creature that appeared for him. A saber-toothed lion already ranked 2 stage 5. It's practically impossible for any candidate to defeat a beast like that. Inside the arena though, our boy finally feels like he has a real opponent. Several ice spikes are fired toward the lion, but the creature dodges effortlessly. That speed puts our protagonist on high alert, especially when the lion's claws come for him. The strike is so precise it almost cuts Popsicle's neck. The professor is dying to know if our boy has some new trick up his sleeve, because at this point he's becoming genuinely incredulous at the kid's potential. The massive lion approaches slowly. Even though Popsicle is 1 stage above it, the difference in raw strength is brutal. Unfortunately, Popsicle is no longer at full power after so many consecutive battles. If he's careless this time, he could lose. The lion is completely determined. As the 2 creatures clash again, our boy realizes he needs the perfect opening. After telling Popsicle to stay ready, he finally finds it and orders her to attack. Several ice spears hit the lion's body, but Popsicle is exhausted. Outside, everyone wonders what happened because it looks like a draw. Only then do they notice that, even wounded, the lion is getting up again. The professor starts thinking the battle might end in a draw, yet he's amazed our protagonist made it this far. Now he's remembering the boy's own words, that he chose this difficulty after thinking deeply about it. Reinvigorated, the lion lets out another roar. Popsicle stands up carefully, dusting off her little icy clothes. But she looks furious now, releasing a surge of power at her enemy. Everything starts freezing so fast that the lion's paws get caught, but the frost still isn't enough to freeze the rest of its body. Our boy remembers that this type of lion comes from extremely cold regions, which is why it has high resistance to ice and cold. That puts heavy limitations on his strategies. At that moment, the system appears, revealing a new achievement. Popsicle has used a skill 10 times. Because of that, our boy receives 100 points and unlocks a new feature. Among the options are a control skill, a defensive skill, and an area of effect attack. Now he's conflicted because he knows creatures can only have 2 basic attacks. The more attacks they have, the more strategic possibilities they offer. His current skills deal heavy damage, but none of them provide crowd control, and that's why he chooses ice chains to restrain enemies. He spends only 50 points on it and hesitates about what to do with the rest. All of this happens while the lion charges again. But Popsicle is now stage 7, stronger than before. The spectators outside are stunned by this sudden burst of light. They can't believe she leveled up again. It should be impossible. None of them saw him use any materials. They start wondering if something is seriously off about this boy. Now strengthened in the middle of battle, he orders Popsicle to use ice chains. Within seconds, the mighty lion is completely restrained. The creature struggles with all its strength to break free, not realizing the danger that's about to hit it. This time, Popsicle goes in with her basic attack in a brutal way, since her target can't defend itself at all. Meanwhile, the background characters are filled with absolute terror, because that kind of power is completely unexplainable. Even the professor wants to know how that creature is able to use 3 abilities. The fight should have ended with that strike, but unexpectedly, the lion's hide turns out to be extremely thick. Even injured, the beast is still alive, so Popsicle uses the same attack again. Only then does the lion finally choose to give up its own life, unable to break free from the chains. With the test concluded, our boy's cousin starts celebrating wildly, already planning to put Alabama tradition into practice. Meanwhile, the background characters try to come up with conspiracy theories, claiming our boy must have bribed the examiner. The professor can't hide his shock. He's seen plenty of talented people, but this is the first time he's ever seen an unknown student with that much potential. Thanks to the consecutive battles, our boy managed to increase both his physical and spiritual strength. He's still at apprentice level, yet he's already far stronger than any newcomer in his situation. And because of the difficulty he chose, he earned extremely valuable benefits. The system even informs him that he can form a contract with the second creature. With so many possibilities, he decides to leave that decision for later. After receiving all his rewards, he decides it's time to return to the real world. But when he opens his eyes, he's surprised he's surrounded by all his classmates. They wonder how he pulled off something so incredible, and they're convinced Popsicle is some sort of extraordinary beast. In the middle of everyone, his cousin finds a way to squeeze in and hug him, clearly thrilled he passed. Walking toward him, the professor praises everything he accomplished, saying he's genuinely impressed and apologizing for the comments he made earlier. This attitude shocks the background characters. They've never heard anything like it. Our boy says he didn't take it personally. The examiner immediately calls our boy by his name and asks if he'd like to join the Beast Himmer Association, offering him a high-ranking position with a great salary, promising it won't interfere with his studies. His cousin urges him to accept right away because only the best receive an offer this good. It's such a disputed opportunity that even the top students aren't guaranteed to get in. If he accepts, he knows it would be financially amazing, but there's a catch. Nothing in life is free. If he receives that much now, he'll have to pay for it somehow, and the association has many strict rules. He doesn't want to lose his freedom. So he thanks the examiner for the offer and says he'll consider it after graduation. A very brave background character, after watching all that, asks if he can take the spot instead, but the examiner ignores him completely, already imagining how much our protagonist will grow in the future. He assures the boy he won't pressure him to change his mind, and says that if he ever reconsiders, he'll be welcomed with open arms, pointing straight at the association's emblem. After that intense test, our boy finally steps outside, but he and his cousin are stopped by someone calling out to her, asking the girl to wait. They're her friends, Blossom and Buttercup. Without any hesitation, Buttercup asks her friend to get our protagonist's contact number. Blossom is doing the same, eager to stay in touch with someone that talented. Since they'll all be classmates, the girls are excited to keep contact with him. But that sudden and very convenient attention ends up making the blonde incredibly jealous, and our protagonist says he still has a few things to take care of, so he's heading out. The girls, however, are desperate to get added as friends on social media. While he's escaping, he gets a message on his phone telling him to come to the office immediately. It's his teacher. She's looking for him. And my God, what an amazing teacher. She's already heard the rumors that our protagonist completed the superior difficulty test. The boy looks at her, still completely confused. But he ends up getting ambushed by his teacher, who loves students who stand out, which is why she hugs him with such enthusiasm. His memories of her are a bit different, though. Back when he did poorly on tests, he had to run away from that force of nature. This time, however, she called him because she has something to give him. Our boy notices the book she hands over contains basic spiritual techniques. She believes these cultivation methods will be useful since they're essential for apprentices, and he should start studying right away. Beyond the presence of beasts, spiritual energy control is the most important aspect of combat. Tamers with strong spirit can defeat dangerous creatures even without relying on their beasts, and they can also protect their own creatures, making the duo truly unstoppable. Our boy becomes extremely excited with the gift and promises he'll start studying immediately. She tells him that if he has any problems in the future, he can come to her for help. Now he's sitting on his bed, studying the first techniques in the book. He decides to learn the basics now so that once he joins the academy, he can focus entirely on advanced knowledge. Within 10 minutes, he's already cultivating. His eyes glow, and the energy in his body spreads throughout the room. Looking at his hands, he realizes he mastered the basics, something a mediocre person would take months to learn. And because he mastered a spiritual technique, the system rewards him with more points. He's thrilled with his progress. Now that he has 350 points, he decides to upgrade his own abilities to become even stronger. Entering a meditative state, he focuses on his guardian spirit, which is at level 3. He feels the shield grow larger and sturdier, capable of protecting up to 4 people. At the moment, he still has 770 spiritual points, and forming the shield only consumes 10. He also still hasn't used the spiritual stone he earned during the test. After absorbing its contents, he strengthens his spirit even further, increasing his power limit. But with such massive reserves, it's time to learn something other than just a shield. The technique he wants to learn next is the ability to shoot arrows with his hands. He can also strengthen his punches with spiritual power. Motivated to gain this knowledge, our boy enters meditation again. With full concentration, he manages to form a spiritual arrow. The impact leaves a small mark on the wall and consumes 10 spiritual points. The power isn't amazing yet, but it's as precise as a real projectile. Now he's going to strengthen his punches. He prepares to throw a strike right in his room. Punching forward into the air consumes 30 spiritual points. The attack completely destroys the wall's surface, a result he finds extremely impressive. Because he learned 3 spiritual techniques, the system rewarded him with a potion capable of fully restoring his spiritual power. Our boy really likes how practical that is, certain it won't disappoint him when he needs it. He also upgraded the techniques he just learned to level 2, spending 100 achievement points. He decides to save the rest for emergencies, and he also realizes he needs to start saving money to buy another beast. At dawn the next day, he heads to the mission center. He goes to the electronic terminal to pick something up. It's his first time doing this kind of work to earn money, but with his current strength, he shouldn't have any difficulty completing missions. Looking at the options available, he starts thinking. He chooses the one with the highest reward, defeating death beetles that live in a dangerous canyon. But since he's only a beginner, he'll be placed in a team with 3 other people, which disappoints him. He needs to reach the canyon before 2 p.m. When he arrives, the other team members are already waiting. He greets them politely, but the emo boy doesn't like that he's late and notices our protagonist hasn't even graduated yet. That makes the Muscle Mountain suspicious. Bringing a rookie could be dangerous. The only woman in the team tells them not to scare a newcomer. Seeing how extremely handsome he is, at least in her eyes, she asks him to come with her. It's true he hasn't graduated yet, and he assures them he won't get in anyone's way. The strong guy realizes his friend is once again falling for a pretty face, but they need to take this mission seriously. Even so, the girl ignores every warning. The strongest guy is the captain of the squad, and he says that once they reach the hunting area, everyone must follow his orders. He also states clearly that our protagonist will receive a smaller share of the reward because of his lack of experience. But our boy knows none of these people have the potential to get into the academy, yet here they are hunting in this place. So he suggests dividing the reward based on individual effort. Whoever works the most gets the most. After agreeing on that, they head into the canyon. After walking for a while, the team comes across a huge pit. That dark, eerie place is where they'll complete their mission. Several evil beetles crawl toward the light, eager to taste human flesh. A massive swarm approaches, and the captain knows exactly what to do. He summons his spiritual beast, a rhino at rank 2. The emo boy refuses to stay behind and summons his praying mantis, also rank 2. The pretty girl summons her wasp, though it's not impressive. Now, our protagonist wants to see what this team can actually do. The evil beetles come rushing in, hungry for human meat. The captain orders his rhino to charge and wipe them out. The creature plows through the swarm, spreading death among the small monsters. Even the emo boy is confident. His praying mantis can cut through almost anything, but the mantis gets surrounded by enemies. That's when the pretty girl steps in. Her wasp turns out to be dangerously effective, firing its stinger and taking down several beetles at once. The creatures drop to the ground, defeated. The emo boy looks at our protagonist and says they're incredibly strong when they work together, and the rookie is just going to stand there watching. The captain says that if the boy wants to receive any reward, he better start working right now. The pretty girl says she'll share her reward with him, as long as he stays behind her. The creatures that had been brutally beaten moments ago are now standing up again. Our boy notices those attacks were useless and didn't accomplish anything against the beetles. Now the creatures gather for a new assault. The sound they make is different this time, and that leaves the pretty girl terrified. The beetles have been overtaken by a frightening malice, and even bigger creatures begin appearing, ready to inflict suffering on humans. There are so many beetles crawling across the ground that they look like a living carpet. The emo boy notices a new type of beetle emerging from the hole, its horns completely different. That makes our protagonist wonder if there might be some kind of king-type creature hidden in that nest. The rhino that had just been crushing its foes is now being eaten alive by the beetles, which tear into its flesh without mercy. Even the praying mantis and the wasp can't escape. The hunters have to recall their creatures, or they'll be devoured alive. But our boy tells them sound is useless. The beetles can create a paralyzing effect, so the beasts can't hear anything anymore. This throws the pretty girl into despair because she's extremely attached to her wasp. Furious, the emo boy grabs our protagonist's clothes, yelling that he should share that information earlier instead of keeping it to himself with sarcastic comments. Our boy tells him he should start worrying about his own safety now because dozens of beetles are still there, and all of them are starving. Then the inevitable happens. The captain orders everyone to run, saying the mission is far too difficult for mediocre people like them. And naturally, he's the first one to flee. This immediately draws the creature's attention. They notice he's a giant moving block of meat. That poor man finally realizes his end is near. But the worst doesn't happen, because our protagonist is an enemy of pointless suffering. He protects everyone with his spiritual barrier. It's so powerful the beetles can't do anything to break through. The captain realizes only students from the Imperial Academy can learn techniques at that level, but our boy tells him to shut up and pay attention to what's going to happen now. The poor guy can't even speak. He's completely overwhelmed. It's time for our protagonist to summon his ice spirit, Little Popsicle. No one knows what she is since they've never seen anything like her in their lives. To our boy, all these beetles are just rank 1 creatures. The only advantage they have is numbers. But that means nothing because Popsicle is already rank 3, and she's overflowing with cruelty to share. The little Popsicle begins summoning her cursed ice spikes, spreading her freezing cold across every creature in sight. Our protagonist recommends that his teammates recover their beasts right now, or it might be too late, unless of course they want to lose all rights to any reward. After witnessing that display of power, the team agrees that the entire reward should go to him alone. The emo boy hates the idea. He feels threatened by that statement. It even sounds like our protagonist might be the legendary Academy candidate who passed the superior difficulty test. And to his shock, our boy confirms his identity and says he was the one who cleared that difficulty. This confirms the pretty girl's suspicions. There's no way an average student could possess power like this. Now she's begging for him to save her beast. Even the emo boy is anxious now. They need that ice melted so they can save their creatures. The team captain ends up punching him, realizing the kid is already acting completely out of it. Our protagonist doesn't need to prove anything anymore. They were arrogant and ignored the potential of the rookie. Slowly, the ice begins dissolving. It's time for those background characters to retrieve their creatures before the beetles start moving again. The pretty girl wants to know what our protagonist plans to do next since the beetles can't be wiped out that easily. But he already has everything planned. He's going to attack the king of that nest. With his face still swollen, the emo boy can't believe our protagonist actually wants to enter that hole. As he goes inside, our boy tells the NPCs to hurry up. Once he's within that place, he notices the darkness doesn't bother him at all, enhancing his body also sharpened his senses. Now he can see every beetle approaching, but none of them can break through his spiritual barrier. They rush at him with full force, only to be sliced apart by his attacks. This time, he's cutting the beetles into pieces. With so many creatures in the area, he realizes the barrier won't last long. No matter how much energy he has left, things could go badly. That's when he remembers he still has achievement points to use. With them, he can unlock more attacks for his creature. Finally, Lil Popsicle starts getting strengthened. This time she learns a defensive skill. That gives them more mobility. He also unlocks an area of effect attack, which will be essential for clearing all those beetles. After his shield is destroyed, he orders Popsicle to attack. She uses her ice domain, freezing all the enemies. At the same time, our protagonist remains protected by an ice barrier while the nearby creatures get obliterated. Now Popsicle uses a massive frost wave to eliminate the beetles. The creatures ignore her completely and try focusing on our protagonist, who remains shielded. With just a flick of his finger, he destroys them again, reaching a total of 50 defeated creatures. After shattering his shield like that, he realizes the explosive power is truly impressive. Thanks to this, Lil Popsicle now has a wide arsenal of abilities. As she fights through battles, she can continue being strengthened. The pace is a bit slow, but with so many creatures around, they can take advantage of this. She's close to reaching the next stage. While thinking about all this, our protagonist hears a loud roar from the end of the cave. The beetles that were attacking suddenly freeze in place. It seems the Beetle King has decided to join the battle, and our boy is already waiting for it. Outside, the background characters watch anxiously. The pretty girl insists they report the mission's true difficulty immediately, fearing for his life. But the emo boy doesn't care at all, saying the protagonist went in there willingly. At that moment, someone arrives and politely asks them to make room. He's already a bronze-level tamer and wants to know if this is where the beetle mission takes place. The team captain confirms it but warns him to be extremely careful. In his place, he wouldn't attempt anything. Only then does he notice the newcomer is indeed a bronze-level tamer. This surprises the whole team. Beast tamers in the association are divided into 3 ranks. Bronze tamers make up the top 30% on the entire planet. Silver tamers make up 12%, and those who reach gold, only 3%. The eccentric newcomer introduces himself. His name is Loda, and he explains that the association notified him about the mission's sudden difficulty change, so they came to clean everything up. The pretty girl realizes that with him around, they might actually survive, and she asks to go with him. Luana says that if she really wants to witness his battle performance, he'll allow her to accompany him, but he makes it clear the guys aren't qualified to go. Truth is, none of them would ever step back into that arthropod nightmare anyway. Meanwhile, deep inside the cave, our protagonist leaves a trail of frozen corpses everywhere he walks. He receives the title Beast Slayer, getting more achievement points for it. He also learns his creature is close to leveling up again. That gets him excited. This is way better than earning money. After checking all this info, he notices the cave is making different sounds. It's almost time for the big creature to appear. When he finally finds the Beetle King, he gets startled. The thing is much bigger than he expected. According to the mission details, the beetle outbreak started a week ago, so this creature was definitely involved. And now, this monster is ready to kill any human it sees. It's rank 4, stage 1. But our boy can't run now, otherwise he won't get any reward. Before he realizes it, a massive stone golem appears. The creature unleashes brutal attacks. It's the other tamer, the one who finally caught up to our protagonist. Since he brought the pretty girl with him, she's relieved to see the protagonist alive and well. But he can't understand why she returned, until she mentions the other tamer. Overflowing with confidence, Luada tells our boy to step aside because the situation is too dangerous for children. That legendary Beetle King only appears once every few thousand years and can control an entire swarm. Luada says he'll handle it, but our protagonist says he accepted the mission, so it's his job to defeat the monster. Acting extremely arrogant, the tamer asks if our protagonist has any idea who he is. At that exact moment, the Beetle King tries to attack, but the stone golem protects its master. Luana formally introduces his creature. That stone monstrosity is rank 3, stage 9. The fight grows more intense with every moment. Our protagonist orders Popsicle to use her ice chains. After that, he calmly says he's just an apprentice tamer. Luada immediately realizes he's standing in front of the Academy prodigy who passed the superior difficulty test. Still, he claims that doesn't mean much because he's facing a real tamer, battle-tested and approved at the bronze difficulty level. But our boy completely ignores his attempt at flexing. Caught in their ego contest, the pretty girl tells them to focus because the situation is getting dangerous. The Beetle King manages to break free from both of them. Luda now feels everything is becoming harder because of this rookie, so he decides to demonstrate the difference in their power. After enhancing his creature with spiritual techniques, the golem rises to rank 4, stage 2. Our protagonist watches carefully. He didn't even know something like that was possible. Now the golem is delivering overwhelmingly violent attacks. The poor Beetle King is nearly shredded apart. Loda says not everyone can learn complex techniques like that. That's the real distance between them. But he doesn't notice the Beetle King getting angrier and angrier. Fueled by pure hatred toward humans, the monster starts moving again. The creature seems completely renewed, and now it's in a state of total frenzy, boosting its power to rank 4, stage 3. The poor stone golem is struggling to keep fighting, which leaves its owner worried. Seizing the opportunity, our boy uses his spiritual attack together with Popsicle. Thanks to that hit, he manages to damage the Beetle King's shell, leaving a small wound. But the moment the creature feels pain, it immediately shifts its focus. As soon as its attention turns to our protagonist, he uses his ice chains, but the creature is far too strong to be restrained by that. Our boy starts getting worried. The monster is trying to attack him directly. Thankfully, the stone golem manages to grab it, putting both tamers on equal ground again. But the golem can't hold for long. It's thrown across the cave, its massive solid body smashing into a wall. The impact seems strong enough to knock it out of the fight completely. The pretty girl panics. This beetle is far too powerful for them, and they're all close to dying in that place. Luda refuses to let go of his pride. He says he'll spare the creature for today and come up with a plan to win next time. But our protagonist refuses to run. He's staying to fight until the Beetle King is destroyed. Hearing that, the other tamer becomes desperate. His own creature, which is extremely strong, didn't manage to accomplish anything. Our boy asks if the difference in their abilities is really just because of those advanced techniques. Luda confirms it, but now he wants to know what this reckless kid is planning to do. Our protagonist decides to use the system to his advantage. He activates a strengthening ability. The other tamer is caught off guard. He never thought our protagonist could use a technique like that. Watching Popsicle grow stronger and stronger, he starts thinking this has to be some kind of joke. More and more shocked by everything happening, he demands to know who this boy even is because this should be impossible. For 60 seconds, Popsicle will be rank 4, stage 3. It's time to end this battle immediately. The ice chains are used on the monster. The skill is enhanced by the surge in power, but they won't be able to maintain this for long. They need to take every chance they can to strike. Our protagonist uses his spiritual power to deal damage. 40 seconds remain before the enhancement ends. Under the force of the violent attacks, the chains can't hold the Beetle King's body any longer. Loda begs him to stop, saying that if he keeps draining his power like this, he'll end up dying young. But our boy assures him he's only using half of his spiritual reserves. He's not doing anything dangerous. Hearing that, the tamer is horrified. Something like that should be completely impossible. The pretty girl is now absolutely certain she's witnessing a true prodigy, and for the first time, she believes they might actually win. Even after taking all those hits, the Beetle King is still alive and threatening. But Popsicle has lost all patience with this fight. She sends a powerful blow at the creature, and the shockwave is overwhelming. No one can explain what just happened or why Popsicle is that powerful. Luna says that in ancient times, mythical beasts joined the battles too. Humans managed to gather 5 elemental creatures and restore order to the world. Ever since then, those 5 beasts completely disappeared. Only 30 seconds remain, and our protagonist is eager to finish the fight right now. Popsicle is fully prepared to unleash the final strike, the cruelest of them all. After being beaten harder than at any point in its entire life, the beetle tries to run, but behind it are our protagonist and Popsicle, furious and relentless. Their attacks finally break through the creature's armored shell, leaving it severely wounded. The system then announces that this is the first boss our boy has ever defeated. The pretty girl immediately starts celebrating, completely amazed, while Lotus sulks because the spotlight has been stolen from him. Popsicle's boost finally ends as the card's effect wears off. Our protagonist tells her she did amazingly well, and thanks to that battle, she reached stage 5 of rank 3. The little creature is exhausted and instantly starts dozing off. Now he starts thinking about the materials he'll need for her next evolution. Thanks to the victory, he receives 500 achievement points, a revival potion, an advanced ice crystal, and evolution materials. Since he wasn't expecting any of that, he's extremely pleased with the system. Then someone calls out to him. It's the other tamer, wanting to discuss something. He wants credit for defeating the creature. An absurd request, and the pretty girl thinks it's completely over the top. Even so, Luda offers financial compensation. Our protagonist can tell the tamer cares a lot about the mission result since it will affect his progress within the association, and with the money he could buy another creature. But he doesn't want to agree immediately. He figures if he waits a little, he might negotiate something better. Luda says that the amount he's offering represents half a year of savings, not counting the mission reward he'll naturally receive, one he plans to keep entirely for himself. He's even willing to owe our protagonist a personal favor just to finalize the deal right now. And that delights our boy because favors have no price. They make the trade quickly, and our protagonist gets 10 units of something. The story doesn't specify what. After sealing that agreement, our boy notices someone else arriving with their creature. It's the Academy Evaluator, immediately recognized by Loda. Straightening his clothes, it becomes clear the man is a silver-level tamer. This amazes the pretty girl even more. She never imagined meeting someone of that rank. The Evaluator looks excited to see our protagonist again. They've crossed paths once before. Our boy greets him casually, which leaves the other tamer stunned when he realizes they actually know each other. Upon arriving, the Evaluator sees the mission has been completed successfully. Loda claims responsibility and says no one was hurt. But what really catches the Evaluator's attention is our protagonist's presence. His creature wasn't strong enough to take down that enemy alone, so victory must have come from teamwork. The Evaluator apologizes to him for the second time, saying the association misjudged the mission difficulty. There was an error in the assessment. But our protagonist says it's fine since Luda saved everyone. Because only the people there know the truth, Luna feels flattered. Our boy blended into the story perfectly, allowing him to take the public credit. The pretty girl realizes the man who arrived is extremely important within the association. Because of the sudden difficulty spike, the association will give an extra 10,000 in rewards to our protagonist, but they need to recover the creature's body for research. Luna is extremely impressed because our boy just made a huge amount of money. After hearing the news, the only thing our protagonist can do is accept the reward. Besides, refusing it would be suspicious, and honestly, he would never turn down free money anyway. The evaluator knows our protagonist needs his second beast and must be desperate for funds, so he wishes him good luck with the reward and tells him that if he ever needs help from the association, he should reach out. The evaluator collects the creature's body with ease and announces he's leaving. Seeing that, our protagonist is genuinely impressed. Outside, Luna is shocked that our protagonist managed to earn 20,000 in a single day, and the boy reminds him that he also gained a favor. Luna promises he won't forget that. After saying goodbye to both of them, Luna leaves. The pretty girl says she didn't expect to meet such incredible people that day. Her trip was definitely worth it. She knows she needs to work very hard to get stronger, and she asks if they might team up for missions in the future. Our boy just tells her to keep training so that possibility might exist someday. With the money he received, our protagonist will finally be able to buy another creature. He immediately heads to the shop and is greeted by the receptionist. He tells her he wants to buy a second beast, and she asks him to follow her. After going down some stairs, they arrive at an area filled with creatures for sale. She tells him to take as much time as he needs to choose. In a place like that, he notices that B-level creatures are the strongest he'll find. With the system's help, he can tell some of them don't have hidden evolution routes. Then he finds a small fire creature with a hidden path, though it wouldn't be nearly as strong as Popsicle. The seller says he has a good eye. This creature is B-level and costs only 16,000, but our boy still thinks that's way too expensive. However, she explains that the purchase includes the evolution materials as well. Even so, he wants to look around more before deciding. Popsicle was labeled as trash, so he can't rely on the association's evaluations. Then the system notifies him there's a creature in the shop with a king-level evolution path. He's stunned by what he finds. A small stone-type monster that feels strangely familiar. Its normal evolution route would turn it into a stone giant, strong and powerful, but its hidden route would turn it into the god of stone, with the ability to control that element. Now he knows why it looked familiar. Luna had a creature just like this, except as it already evolved. That tamer probably has no idea his creature has the potential to become a god. Compared to Popsicle, who functions like a mage, this stone creature would be more of a warrior type. The seller explains that this stone monster is the most popular choice among many people because its evolution materials are common and cheap. She says she can sell it for only 8,000, and that price makes our protagonist very happy. He also hands her a list of materials needed for his creature's evolution. This makes her curious because those materials wouldn't evolve a stone monster and are extremely expensive. To avoid explaining too much, he simply says he plans to gift those items. He then realizes that evolution materials tend to be more expensive than the beasts themselves. Finally, he receives the items he purchased. He receives the seal pearl in his hand, basically this world's version of a Pokeball. The contract with his second creature is finally completed, and the system grants him another 300 achievement points. Back in his room, our boy prepares the evolution materials. First, he needs to raise the little creature's growth rate to 100%. Then he'll use the achievement points he earned to start strengthening his new monster. Unlike Popsicle, this one seems a bit dumb. No one would imagine something like this has the potential to become a god. He tells the little stone creature to start eating the materials so it can evolve. It devours the first ingredient with intense enthusiasm, but it still needs more nourishment, so he points to the stone powder it also has to consume. The little creature refuses, and our boy reminds it that the meal was very expensive. That's when he realizes the stone creature is picky about what it eats. Since it's still sulking, our protagonist comes up with an idea. The little creature suddenly senses a strange energy. Popsicle was just summoned in front of it. The two creatures immediately start sizing each other up. The stone creature tries to assert dominance, attempting to strike at Popsicle, but it's quickly corrected. It's nowhere near strong enough to act like that. After being disciplined, it bursts into tears like a spoiled child. Now our boy understands this won't be an easy task. The interaction between the creatures is still messy, but at least the stone creature begins eating. Even though it hates the taste of the powder, its growth rate eventually reaches 100%. A dark light starts wrapping around its entire body. Slowly, it begins a large metamorphosis. The stone creature evolves into a stone ghost, a stage 9, rank 2 creature already on the divine evolution route. Our protagonist is thrilled. Luna would never imagine something like this was possible. The little creature's gaze becomes strangely mysterious. That actually startles our protagonist as he tries to figure out what it's planning. The creature immediately unleashes an attack right in the middle of the room. Popsicle doesn't appreciate that behavior and charges straight at it again. The stone creature gets ready to fight back, but before it can act, something like a nerve-like tendril appears right in front of it, confusing it completely. Popsicle blocks the attack with her ice shield. Our boy doesn't like seeing his apartment wall destroyed like that. If the creature is going to attack on its own, then it's time to teach it the rules. Now that Popsicle's evolution requirements have been met, he plans to discipline the stone creature and guide it onto the right path. The evolution materials are finally consumed. Popsicle's eyes begin glowing with a frightening intensity. The stone creature senses the energy rising as well, and then becomes stunned by what it sees. With her newest evolution, Popsicle has transformed into a snow maiden, a rank 4 creature, though still stage 1. She has the same abilities as before, only much stronger now. Our protagonist is ecstatic with this new upgrade. Then the stone creature starts feeling something happening to its body. Looking down, it realizes its feet are slowly freezing over. It's time to educate the new pet properly. Our protagonist asks Popsicle to use ice rain. Several ice spikes form in the sky. Before being skewered by them, the stone creature understands it's being far too arrogant and decides to apologize. Our protagonist explains that they made a contract, so it needs to obey him. However, if it insists on continuing that behavior, he makes it very clear that he has no problem ending the creature's life right there if necessary. So he asks her a simple question: does she intend to cooperate or not? The stone creature immediately shows respect. She's terrified of what Popsicle might do to her. Once the discipline session ends, they hear a loud noise outside. Someone is extremely upset and demanding that the door be opened. On the other side stands an angry man complaining about the excessive noise and about the damage to his wall. Our boy apologizes and says he'll compensate him. But this isn't the first time something like this has happened, and the man claims he should also be compensated for the mental damage, demanding 30,000. Our protagonist is shocked. Furious, the man insists on being paid within 3 days. He keeps threatening him until he feels the murderous intent coming from the stone creature. Since that creature lies and breathes violence, it decides to resolve the situation itself. The man suddenly realizes he's powerless. Just before his skull is turned into powder, our protagonist orders the stone creature to stop immediately. Terrified, and with his underwear compromised, the man asks if that creature actually belongs to him, because he's never seen a monster like that. Once again, our boy apologizes, explaining he was training the creature and unintentionally scared his neighbor. He also asks whether the man still wants compensation for the damage. The man instantly takes back everything he said. After all, the noise was just a small inconvenience and really should be taken too seriously. Finally, the night ends. Our protagonist rests alongside his beasts. The next morning, he wakes up in panic because his phone is ringing nonstop. His cousin is calling. Today is the entrance exam for the Imperial Academy, and apparently he completely forgot about it. By the look on his face, it's clear he genuinely didn't know. Even so, he manages to meet his cousin at the school gate. When she sees him approach, she extends her hand to greet him. The background characters around them start mocking him for arriving late to such an important event. The teacher isn't happy either. She notices he overslept again. He explains he's been exhausted lately, but she still wants to know if he's been practicing his spiritual techniques. His cousin watches their interaction closely. The teacher begins addressing the entire class. She reminds them they're the elite of the school and that this year's exam will be far more challenging. She tells them not to feel guilty if they fail and only asks that they do their best because she believes in them. The students get fired up by her speech and promise to give everything they've got. Meanwhile, our protagonist quietly hopes he'll outperform everyone again. Once they're on the bus headed to the exam site, his cousin asks why he hasn't been answering her messages. The truth is, he's been extremely busy lately and completely forgot. She then tells him that her fierce magic bird has successfully evolved and she's thrilled about it. He's happy to hear it and believes the exam will go smoothly. Looking out the window, his cousin is amazed by the size of the city, but she doesn't notice that she just pressed her best attributes directly against his face again. Only after a moment does she realize what happened. She becomes completely embarrassed, instantly killing the joy our protagonist was feeling. The students finally arrive at the Imperial Academy, an absolutely stunning building that looks almost like a palace. Everyone is amazed. Some are already thinking that if they manage to get accepted, their lives will completely change. Our boy, who is keeping things low-key, notices people clearing a path. They're students from another school who also came to take the exam. More background characters start showing up as well. Blossom approaches our protagonist's cousin. Since she's the class representative, she should also assert herself in that situation. Feeling a bit shy, she looks at our protagonist, who gives her full approval. She then does exactly what the other representatives did. She introduces herself to everyone. But one of the background characters doesn't like that. He sees their school as a group of country bumpkins. And to be fair, our boy's hometown is a bit remote and far from the main cities. Then someone finally appears among the gathered youths. It's the professor in charge of registration this year, a man with thin facial hair and a very tired expression. He congratulates everyone for making it this far, but tells them not to be happy yet. The difficulty of the entrance exam is far higher than anything they've done before. Compared to previous years, this time the rejection rate is 80%. The students who chose the easiest test difficulty start getting nervous. One background character mocks them, saying nobody from our protagonist's school will pass, clearly just trying to stir trouble. Another one, very bald, believes that he and his friend will definitely pass, but can't imagine who else might make it. The ugly girl starts analyzing things seriously. She thinks the long-haired student looks strong and will probably pass. She scans through the other candidates until her eyes land on our protagonist. Her impression is that he looks extremely strange. The bald guy immediately asks what she noticed. She says it's nothing. She just felt that his strength might be unknown. She says this while staring closely at him, but the bald guy dismisses it, believing he's just a clueless bumpkin and not worth worrying about. The professor tells everyone that they'll be staying at a hotel that night, and he hopes they all rest well for the upcoming exam. Some students get excited. Even the food will be free. Our protagonist's cousin invites him to join her for a meal. They head to the cafeteria where many candidates have already gathered. Some background characters nearby start making disrespectful comments about his cousin's physical attributes. One of them warns the others to keep quiet or they might get in trouble. At their table, his cousin tells him he needs to eat more, then piles way too much protein onto his plate, far beyond what he needs. Blossom and Buttercup join them, saying the two of them look like a cute couple. This embarrasses his cousin a lot because she never thought about things that way. The background characters are shocked. Several girls are gathering around our protagonist. One of the boys becomes extremely jealous, thinking that he should be the one getting attention from women because of his looks. Then a guy approaches their table and asks if he can sit with them. Our protagonist's cousin doesn't like that at all, but she still allows him to sit. The background character starts introducing himself. He says he's from Kimping School and his name is Hainong. Good grief, every name in the story is a challenge. Now that he's sitting beside our boy, the protagonist asks what brought him over. Xiang explains that he heard someone from our protagonist's school managed to take the exam in the superior difficulty, and he really wants to meet that person. Buttercup doesn't like that at all. Neither does Blossom. They think this guy came just to gather information so he can beat his competitors later. But the poor guy insists he just wants to make new friends. For small side characters like him, the only way to survive in the story is by getting closer to the main cast. Our protagonist's cousin tells him she has nothing to say to him and asks him to leave. Even so, Xiong begs them not to be so hostile. He's not there to bribe, unlike his classmates, and he points toward the leader of his school, that long-haired background character who is currently surrounded by girls. He's a very famous prodigy in his region. He completed the exam in the difficult setting, and his beast is a plant-type creature already at rank 3. Blossom and Buttercup are stunned. That's way too high a rank for a freshman. Xiang explains that the guy's family is extremely wealthy and supplies him with rare materials. Hearing this, our protagonist's cousin realizes she still has a long path ahead since her creature is only at stage 7 of rank 2. Continuing the introductions, Xiang points to an ugly girl with a ponytail. He explains she's extremely troublesome. She'd only got her beast in her 3rd year, yet in 1 month managed to pass the exam. Her creature is a steel dragon at stage 8 of rank 2. Blossom is shocked. It seems way too fast to progress that much. But her friend reminds her that the higher a tamer's spiritual power, the easier it is to strengthen their beast. Our protagonist begins watching the ugly girl. She quickly notices and gives him a small friendly gesture. But there are still others Kaxion wants to introduce. One guy has a creature with 2 elements, which leaves the girls completely speechless. Our protagonist's cousin remembers learning from her teacher that rare beasts with multiple attributes exist only in extremely dangerous areas, and most of them can't even be tamed. This makes our protagonist think of his stone creature, a stone-type and ghost-type hybrid. It's a good sign that investing in it will pay off. After sharing all the information he knows, all Xiong wants is to learn more about the student who completed the superior difficulty exam. Blossom is about to reveal the truth, but then something happens. She's cut off by our protagonist, who says that this prodigy didn't show up today. His words leave the girls stunned. Our protagonist sticks to that version and tells the background character that none of them personally know the student who cleared the superior difficulty test. Xiong is disappointed, and since no one wants to share anything with him, he says goodbye. But he can sense something is being hidden, and he's sure the one who passed the superior test is among that group. He joins another table full of his classmates and tells them that he'll be testing that guy soon. Blossom wants to know why our protagonist didn't tell the truth. After all, it's something he should be proud of. But he doesn't like attention. He doesn't want the spotlight, and he doesn't even believe a stranger's information should be trusted. After finishing their meal, everyone begins leaving the cafeteria. Stacy, this will be the cousin's name from now on, tells her friends they should train that night so they can perform well on the exam. She also invites our protagonist to stop by their room later so they can train together more effectively. Naturally, our boy's corrupted imagination immediately creates an extremely unlikely but very appealing scenario. But their moment is interrupted by complete nonsense. A background character suddenly slaps Stacy on the butt. He wants to know if he and his friends can visit her room that night, clearly implying he's ready to do something disgusting. He didn't expect Stacy's violent reaction. She's already prepared to crush his skull with her bare hands. The guy, eager to provoke, catches her fist to show off his physical strength. His friends start grinning, but none of them notice that something extremely dangerous is about to happen. Our protagonist is overwhelmed with genuine rage. He's thirsting for blood. The problem is that if he fights there, he'll get punished, and Stacy asks him to ignore it. The background character says that the girls in this school are beautiful, while the guys apparently are pathetic. He finishes that sentence, and in the next instant, a punch flies toward his face at high speed. In seconds, our protagonist smashes the guy's face in. The impact sends him flying several meters, filling his friends with terror and despair. Even then, they think our protagonist will get beaten up, but he has already activated cruelty mode. He can tolerate humiliation directed at himself, but they made the mistake of messing with his cousin. Feeling his murderous intent, the students begin to soil themselves very slowly, and our protagonist declares that he won't allow them to walk away unpunished. The background character with the smashed face manages to stand up. He's ready to attack with spiritual energy, but someone stops him. It's his school's representative, the long-haired background character who doesn't want his institution's reputation tarnished. He also admits that our protagonist's punch was quite strong. Still furious, Our protagonist says the matter is far from settled. The background characters insist they'll teach him a lesson, and the long-haired representative says he'll hear our protagonist's complaints. The two glare at each other with hostility until Stacy calls him over to leave before someone ends up dying in that hallway. Only then does our protagonist finally suppress his murderous aura. He reveals he's actually excited to see these people again during the exam. The girls with him are delighted by that display of power and brutality. They are becoming even more interested in him. Finally, it's revealed that the long-haired background character is actually a pervert, and he somehow figures out who the prodigy from the superior difficulty test is. Everyone returns to their rooms. A mysterious mist is coming from the bathroom of one of the girls. For inexplicable reasons, the girls decided to shower together. Stacy asks why they need to be squeezed together like that. Blossom, full of mischief in her eyes, says it's necessary for their training. Buttercup is extremely enthusiastic about that kind of training and even offers to give her friends a massage. But Stacy doesn't seem embarrassed. She only says they shouldn't touch her body randomly. The next day, all the students gather in a hall and the professor is already waiting for them. He says he has good news first, but after evaluating the candidates' levels, he reached an obvious conclusion. This is the worst selection of students in history, and he can't expect anything positive from them. Everyone is shocked because that news is anything but good. The background characters start insulting each other. Blossom gets furious and says she hopes she won't have to see that jerk again, or he's going to get what he deserves. The exam will once again take place inside the illusory dimension of the Origin Stone. This time, the place is called the Secret Forest. Slowly, images of that dimension appear for all the students to see. They can clearly observe that many dangerous creatures are waiting on the other side. When they enter meditation, they will be sent there, and each of them will have a score on their arms. The panel will show the number of dangerous creatures they defeat. Rank 1 creatures give 10 points, Rank 2 creatures give 20, and Rank 3 creatures give 40. The professor says they will be both hunters and prey. When their creatures or their own bodies die inside that dimension, the test ends for them. There is also a central stone that shows the scores of the top 10 players. Since there are Rank 3 creatures inside, most students will probably be eliminated instantly. The evaluation time is only 4 hours, and only the top 10 candidates will be approved. This makes one student raise a question. It's the long-haired background character, who wants to know if they are only allowed to hunt beasts. The professor says that's a great question. If they eliminate another candidate, they will receive all of that person's points. This immediately causes chaos among the candidates, who start trying to form alliances to survive. The bald guy likes that news because now he can use his full potential. But the ugly girl remains suspicious, watching our protagonist very closely. With all the noise, the professor yells at everyone to shut up. He says the real battlefield is far more brutal than this exam, and if any coward wants to quit, they should do it now. He also says the first-place candidate will receive several privileges. Navi's eager to see who among them will become the king of the freshmen. Stacy really wants to find our protagonist immediately because she knows it will make her life easier. He's worried about her as well and tells her to use her flying ability to find him as soon as she arrives on the other side. Those words fill Stacy with determination. The professor tells the students to sit down and stay quiet. It's time to enter the illusory dimension. Our protagonist finally appears inside the forest. The first thing he does is look around, and he spots the large stone the professor talked about. He also sees the exam data on his arm, his score, and the remaining time. The information is limited. He can't tell whether he's in the top 10, so that stone will definitely become a gathering point for players, making it the most dangerous area. In other words, if he hunts freely without checking the stone, he won't know his real position. And if he is in the top 10, he'll become a target without noticing. It seems the true goal of the exam is to force players to fight among themselves, because those who are strong enough can ignore the rules entirely. Treating it like a game, our protagonist is ready to enjoy himself. As he walks, an attack suddenly happens. Something loses its fangs. A big snake tried to strike him, but it's only Rank 1. The poor creature definitely won't be biting anything else for the rest of its life. Our boy only put up that barrier as a precaution to avoid situations like this. Since he was already in the middle of a fight, he decided to call out the stone creature to have some fun too. He plans to hide his own strength for now so he can explore the true potential of his new beast, especially since it has 2 attributes. The snake in front of the stone creature doesn't seem dangerous at all. Since it was already trying to run away, our boy chooses to ignore it. Hunting would be a waste of time for such a small amount of points. Because he wants to test his creature's potential, it's time to look for opponents that are much more ferocious and dangerous. What's really bothering him, though, is wondering whether Stacy will be able to find him in that place. He hopes everything goes well, completely unaware that his cousin is leaving a trail of destruction behind her. After 15 minutes, she has gathered 30 points, but she hasn't been able to find him. So she orders her Firebird to keep searching. Up above, the creature can also see the main stone. Little by little, Stacy becomes more worried, because she really wanted to be alone with him in that forest. Maybe she's the real danger. The Firebird keeps flying. Then Stacy finally spots something. Several players are being tormented by the forest creatures. The life of a background character really isn't easy. Unfortunately, tamed creatures can't get too far from their owners, which makes things a bit harder for her. To solve this, Stacy needs to continue exploring. One thing she's sure of, our boy will definitely be in the top 10 and she'll be able to find him later using the coordinates on the main stone. As she thinks about that strategy, a malicious ostrich tries to approach her with bad intentions. She dodges the attack easily, letting the clumsy ostrich stumble past. She notes that the monster is rank 2, and according to her notes, it shouldn't be a match for her fleeing creature. The firebird charges forward and burns that stupid ostrich to ash. That gives Stacy 20 more points. But right in the middle of the fight, something unexpected happens. She tries to understand who caused it. A boomerang returns to its owner's hand. But it's not a real boomerang. It's a banana. It was thrown by a large monkey that belongs to that annoying background character. But the monkey is weaker than Stacy's creature. The guy is excited, thinking it's a wonderful coincidence they've run into each other. Stacy hates it because he stole the points from her capture, but he doesn't care. He promises to steal all of her points and orders his monkey to destroy her firebird. The creature throws its banana boomerang again. Stacy tells her fire creature to dodge, but she didn't expect the banana to curve in midair. Now it's coming at her instead. She narrowly avoids being hit, but because she was distracted, the idiot manages to grab her, covering her mouth so she can't give orders to her bird. The biggest difference between humanoid-type creatures and others is their higher intelligence. They can act on their own, and this jerk just wants to cause chaos. Now the large monkey has captured the firebird. The background character says that before he eliminates his competition, he intends to have some fun. Meanwhile, almost 30 minutes into the exam, our protagonist has already earned 40 points. The stone creature is working hard for that. And deep in the forest, he runs into the background character who was trying to gather information earlier. The creature with him isn't very strong, and besides that, it's extremely ugly. The chubby guy is excited because he's already gathered 60 points. Only then does he recognize our protagonist, who approaches him in a friendly way they met earlier in the cafeteria. Our boy knows he hasn't been identified yet and hopes to extract some information from this background character. When he walks over with the stone creature, the chubby guy goes into pure excitement. He's never seen a creature like that and is amazed. But since he sees it's a stone type, he immediately assumes our protagonist is not the prodigy because that prodigy was known for using an ice creature. Our boy tells him the stone creature is just a common D-rank beast that recently reached rank 2. The chubby guy proudly shows his own creature, which is very exotic and already at stage 7 of rank 2. Our protagonist is genuinely impressed, which flatters the chubby guy. He suggests they team up to gather more points. That proposal gets our protagonist interested. But in reality, the chubby guy is already planning to betray him the first chance he gets so he can steal all his points. Meanwhile, deeper in the forest, Stacy has decided she's had enough humiliation. After grabbing one of the jerk's hands, she uses a self-defense move on him. Once again, the background character is humiliated, and honestly, he deserves it. Lying on the ground, his eyes fill with genuine terror. Last time, Stacy's cousin stepped in, but now she isn't going to let this creep escape so easily. Furious, she orders the demonification. The firebird's flames begin to change color, startling the jerk's creature as it realizes the bird is transforming into something completely different. The firebird now has a dark form, looking almost undead. The monkey begins to panic, unable to process something that frightening. Even with its intelligence, it decides the best option is to run away, abandoning its tamer in despair. Stacy notices the creep has been abandoned by his own beast, a terrible position to be in. Realizing something awful is coming, the jerk begs for just one thing. He doesn't want to be hit in the exact spot of his face again. A scream of pain echoes through the entire forest. After ending the life of that scumbag, Stacy absorbs all the points he had collected up to that moment. The main stone is already showing the players who are leading the exam. Outside, the professor watches everything carefully. It seems these candidates aren't so bad. Less than an hour has passed and someone already surpassed 100 points. Now the professor watches the long-haired student. That guy just encountered a rank 3 creature, a dangerous tiger, but his plant-type creature is also rank 3 and at a higher stage. The duel between them is about to begin. The tiger is determined to enjoy another meal, but the plant creature manages to capture it with its tentacles. The monster's strength is absurd though. It breaks free easily and bites into the plant. Even if he isn't a vegetarian, the tiger doesn't refuse a free salad. The long-haired student is furious because his venomous plant is playing too much with its prey, and they need to move on to the next target. Suddenly, the tiger begins to feel the worst stomachache of its life. The pain is overwhelming. The plant's tentacles pierce through the tiger from the inside out. The battle finally ends. Then the plant presses its roots into the corpse, absorbing all the nutrients instantly. The carcass shrivels right away. The long-haired sociopath is extremely pleased. He's now leading the competition. Other competitors finally reach the main stone, watching closely the names of those who were leading everything. Seeing that, the bald guy acted like it was nothing surprising since the ugly girl was in second place, but she said she was a little worried, and the bald guy tried to reassure her. He still had 0 points, but he planned to hunt other players. That would be enough. That made the ugly girl ask who they should start with. The bald guy realized attacking the long-haired prodigy was a terrible idea, and they should avoid people from the school that came with them. So he said their next target should be the protagonist's cousin. The ugly girl remembered that in Stacy's school there was a talented boy, but his name didn't show up on the list. They were talking about our protagonist. The bald guy believed he must have cheated and was probably just someone with no real ability. Using the stone, they tracked Stacy's location and knew exactly where to go. The duo rushed forward through the forest. Meanwhile, Stacy was with her creature. After scanning the surroundings, she realized there were insects on the left and carnivorous plants on the right, but she still hadn't found the protagonist and she wanted to find him as soon as possible. But our boy had teamed up with that chubby schemer, and they found something. That plant-type creature had already been defeated by the protagonist earlier in the exam. The chubby one said he would leave this one to the protagonist, pretending he would help later, when in reality he was waiting for a chance to betray him and steal all of his points. Pebble went in with brutal force. In just a few seconds, the plant creature was already defeated. Pebble has no mercy. He only knows how to deliver pain and violence. That's when the chubby guy started thinking about what had just happened. That enemy was defeated with a single hit, and that display of force was not something he expected to witness. Now there were a little over 2 minutes left before everything ended, and the protagonist's cousin was among the top 10. The professor was surprised by the protagonist's progress. In less than 2 hours, he had managed to enter the list. Only then did he notice the protagonist was working together with another candidate. The chubby boy was now terrified because he wasn't managing to contribute to that progress at all. The protagonist apologized for being too strong. Since their performance was crucial for passing, he instructed his creature to finish everything quickly, but because the chubby guy needed points, he would be the one to fight next. The truth was that the big guy hated the protagonist's attitude and was still determined to steal all his points. At that moment, the system warned that a rare beast had been detected, and the protagonist believed he would get more points from it. In the middle of the trees, he found a strange golden-colored trunk. The chubby one couldn't believe it was real. He could already imagine the bonus points he would receive. But then one of the roots grabbed him, while the protagonist dodged effortlessly. Now the chubby guy was in real trouble. That tree looked extremely dangerous, and it was eager to consume human flesh. It was a rank 3 creature, already at stage 9. The chubby one knew very well that this golden tree was a rare creature. He begged his creature for help, but the poor thing was also captured. At that moment, he realized there wasn't much left he could do. He felt his spiritual energy being completely drained, and that could be deadly. So he begged the protagonist for help, but the protagonist reminded him that they had agreed the chubby guy would hunt the next creature. However, things weren't in his favor. He clearly needed help to defeat something this dangerous. After all that, he still turned his back on him because their agreement was being broken, saying the chubby guy was perfectly capable of handling it on his own. That left the poor guy completely desperate, begging for help. Now that things had reached this point, our protagonist decided to help, but he wanted something in return. The chubby guy promised to share more information about the others, even though he was secretly plotting to betray our protagonist because he didn't like being humiliated like that. While they were still in that dangerous situation, our boy was thinking calmly. Then the chubby guy blurted out that he had something to say about a sacred technique used by the long-haired guy, and now he needed help immediately. Our protagonist started wondering if that technique was similar to what he saw when he hunted the Beetle King. If so, that information was valuable, so he ordered Pebble to use a crushing blow against that tree. Pebble, a devoted lover of every possible variation of violence, charged into the attack, but on the way he ran into several roots. Thanks to his strength and speed, he dodged all of them and closed in dangerously on the creature's main trunk. He finally had the range to hit his enemy when one of the tentacles grabbed him by the waist. Pebble was completely restrained, his attack neutralized. Our boy immediately realized that his creature, even at stage 9 of rank 2, still struggled against strong enemies, and now it couldn't break free from all those roots. There was no other option. He would have to summon Popsicle for this fight. But as he thought about that, he noticed something. Even while being restrained, Pebble was still trying to resist. Our protagonist decided to encourage him, asking if that was really all the strength he had. Pebble seemed fired up by those words, revealing all of his hidden rage. The evil tree sensed something was happening and sent even more roots to wrap around him completely. There was a real chance Pebble wouldn't escape this one. The chubby guy watching the fight was sure everything was over now, and there was no salvation for either of them. A total of 27 participants had already been eliminated. The professor decided to personally check things himself because he wanted to understand the true power our protagonist was hiding. Inside the massive roots, Pebble suddenly disappeared. All that was left was a dark mist that began to gather and swirl suspiciously. Even our protagonist didn't know what was happening. But this was a new ability of Pebble. He had taken on a ghost form, and this ability would last for 30 seconds. The chubby guy wanted to know what was going on, growing more and more shocked. Meanwhile, our protagonist realized that creatures with more than one attribute had very interesting abilities. It was time to see what this power could really do. The cursed tree seemed furious, wanting to keep attacking, but none of its strikes could touch Pebble's ghostly body. After several failed attempts, the tree became extremely frustrated. Our boy realized that in this form, his creature was completely immune to all physical attacks. Checking the system, he saw that in this ghost form, Pebble could throw stones and create spikes from the ground. He ordered him to launch projectiles at the creature's eyes and trunk. Following the command, Pebble used his psychic power to move objects, sending all of them to the exact spots our protagonist had chosen. The tree was finally defeated, releasing the chubby guy and his useless creature. The difference in ranking was truly absurd, and our protagonist knew that alone wouldn't be enough to beat enemies of this kind. Now free, the chubby guy begged our protagonist to run too, insisting he had no chance of defeating that monster. After hearing that, the chubby kid started feeling truly cornered, because if our protagonist lost right there, there'd be no one left for him to steal points from. Unfortunately, it looked like he'd have to let go of his little evil plan and save it for another chance. The tree rose again, completely out of control, wanting to use its roots to wipe our protagonist out entirely, but he called for Popsicle. The moment she joined the battle, she appeared right in front of all those malicious tentacles. It was time for her to unleash her ultimate ability. Summoning a snowstorm, she froze a huge portion of that area, including the roots of the cursed tree. Pebble's 30-second ability had ended, and he returned to his physical form. With the enemy completely immobilized, it was time for Pebble to use brute force and crush it without mercy. He slammed into the trunk with violent, crushing blows. Popsicle was still using her ice ability, and our protagonist ordered Pebble to shift back into his spirit form. That way he could avoid the falling ice spikes now raining from the sky, dealing even more damage to the cursed creature. Gathering power in one hand, our protagonist said that things weren't over yet. It was his turn to strike the creature too, unleashing a brutal blast of spiritual force. When the fight finally ended, only pieces of the cursed tree remained. The system immediately notified him of his victory. Pebble ranked up, and in his spirit form, he could now create clones with the same attributes as the original, costing 100 conquest points. Our protagonist realized the ability was expensive but incredibly useful once learned. He was getting more excited about Pebble's potential by the second. Outside, someone was watching all of this very carefully. The professor saw that what our protagonist had done was genuinely impressive, and that the ice creature had the potential to reach the divine ranking. After earning 60 points from that victory, our protagonist realized he probably couldn't hide his potential anymore. The chubby kid finally returned to the clearing, trying to understand what had happened. When he pieced things together, he came to the obvious conclusion that our protagonist had been the one to defeat that cursed creature. But something else caught his attention. He wanted to know who the blue girl was, since he hadn't seen any candidate who looked like her. Our protagonist regretted it. He had forgotten to hide Popsicle, and now he couldn't hide his identity anymore. Even so, he still tried pushing a ridiculous excuse, saying he didn't know that girl and assumed she was a beast in human form, giving her the credit for the victory against the tree. But that made the chubby kid even more confused. He couldn't understand why beasts were fighting each other. Maybe she was someone's summoned creature? Then he realized it might be the legendary students doing proof that this person's power was far above the rest. And if that was true, he could be the next one eliminated. Listening to all that, our protagonist was just confused. He had to use the system to give Popsicle a new order. She needed to pretend she was attacking them. Naturally, she was extremely confused by that command. Then the chubby kid finally realized they really were the next targets. Several ice daggers materialized in the air, ready to obliterate anything in sight. Now the kid was completely desperate. He and his useless creature couldn't do anything to defend themselves. Following our protagonist's command, Popsicle started launching ice everywhere, attacking everything around her. Seeing he was about to be eliminated in the most humiliating way, the chubby kid decided his best option was to attack our protagonist first and then try to escape, so he ordered his creature to act. After swallowing our protagonist, it looked like the creature had eaten him, but the chubby guy said he did that to protect him. Using the system, our protagonist confirmed to Popsicle that everything was fine and told her to leave first. He gave the same order to Pebble. After running for a while, the chubby guy was completely exhausted and needed to catch his breath. But he believed the situation was perfect now, since he managed to escape danger and would still earn some points. Inside the creature, our protagonist wanted to know if it was safe yet, which startled the chubby guy. Using his magic barrier inside that stomach, he hadn't been digested at all, and he asked if he could be released. The chubby guy claimed they were still being chased and told him to hold on a bit longer, but he couldn't understand why his creature hadn't digested him. That meal was starting to make the monster feel extremely sick. Eventually, the creature spat our protagonist back out. Watching all that, the chubby guy had no idea how he managed to escape. Our protagonist figured that if the monster kept chasing them, they could combine forces and destroy it. That made the chubby guy certain he was dealing with a complete fool. Now that they weren't being chased anymore, our protagonist wanted to hear more about that exclusive spiritual technique. The chubby guy suggested they go to the main stone first to check if they were ranked in the exam. On the way, he explained that this spiritual technique is something only a few Tamers can awaken. You can acquire it through books, but it's so rare that even teachers aren't always willing to teach it. Hearing that, our protagonist wanted to know what techniques his competitors were using. But they'd finally reached the main stone, and the chubby guy was eager to check the rankings. As expected, our protagonist was among the top candidates, but the chubby guy's name wasn't anywhere in the top 10. Time was running out, and he believed he still had a chance, because the last ranked candidate had only 100 points. All he needed to do was eliminate our protagonist. Plotting something nasty, he called our protagonist over, but then he noticed something strange. Our protagonist had a total of 180 points, and he had no idea how that happened. He then associated those numbers with the fourth place candidate who had the exact same score. Horrified, he asked for our protagonist's name. Full of confidence, our protagonist said his name was Lin Z, though honestly, he looks more like a Lindu to me, a much easier name. The chubby guy couldn't believe it. He couldn't believe he had been traveling with him this whole time. He had ignored a crucial detail. People who pass the superior difficulty test can have two beasts, and that ice creature definitely belonged to our protagonist, who had been hiding his strength all along. Now that everything was out in the open, our protagonist told the chubby guy not to forget what had happened. He had been saved by him, and now it was time to hand over information. Completely terrified, the chubby guy made a foolish decision. He said he wouldn't say anything and ordered his creature to attack. It obeyed immediately, only to be violently knocked back by Pebble's punches, and Popsicle joined in too, freezing the enemy solid. Now the chubby guy had nothing left to defend himself with. His points weren't much, but our protagonist decided to take them anyway. After being scared out of his mind, the chubby guy finally agreed to cooperate and said he'd tell everything he knew. But our protagonist had already changed his mind. There was no point in learning the competitor's techniques. Everything would remain the same. Those words struck absolute terror into the chubby guy's heart. When he saw our protagonist saying that he was far stronger than the others and that nothing would change, he meant every word. Just as he finished speaking, our boy told Popsicle to use her ice attack. But something cut that moment short. The fat kid's body was suddenly pierced through by roots that burst out of nowhere. And honestly, I'm not even surprised. The one who did it was that long-haired jerk, better known as the creep with the big hair. He said he'd been waiting a long time for our protagonist to show up. Even after taking that hit, the fat kid warned him to be careful because our boy has a creature with an ice attribute. Meanwhile, our protagonist is watching everything closely, already preparing to settle some overdue issues. The long-haired creep told the fat kid that he could finally go get some rest. In truth, he was thrilled about it because all of the fat kid's points were about to be absorbed by his master, so in the end, his sacrifice would not be in vain. But before the poor guy could disappear, his body was frozen into a massive block of ice. Now the creep's full attention is on our protagonist. He wants to uncover the power he's been hiding all this time to see whether he deserves the title of top freshman. But our boy couldn't care less about titles. If that fight is only for something so pointless, he'd rather have peace. When he heard that, the long-haired creep assumed our protagonist had admitted defeat. Completely unhinged, he said he was shocked to find out what a coward he was and promised to crush every top scorer one by one. Just imagining the pleasure he'd get from that made him look even more degenerate. Only now did our protagonist remember that his cousin is in that place too. The same goes for her friends, and all of them would be in danger if that disgusting creep got anywhere near them. After checking her location, he started moving toward her immediately. But the long-haired jerk is determined to get in his way, ordering his plant-type creature to block the path. The creature launched its tentacles right away, trying to stop him, and even managed to restrain Pebble. But our protagonist still managed to protect himself with his spiritual shield. This made the creep think our protagonist was nothing but a clown, too easy to capture, and now perfect for draining dry. That assumption irritated our boy deeply. He didn't have a single second to waste on a clown like that, and so he called Popsicle to appear behind him. That's when the creep finally saw the terror closing in, but he was already frozen solid by Popsicle. The plant creature tried to avenge its master, but it was frozen just as easily. Popsicle didn't even need effort to deal with something like that. With both enemies immobilized, Pebble started unleashing hateful punches, shattering them into pieces. Our protagonist reminded everyone that he had warned them. He didn't have time to waste with trash like this. Worst of all, he even left the long-haired guy intact like a statue instead of shattering him. Slowly, the ice began to melt, and it seemed the tentacles were still alive. Another candidate who wandered into that area noticed the plant creature's surprisingly strong vitality. Since our protagonist had spared the creep's life, this poor opportunist thought he'd found his golden chance. He was ready to claim the creep's points, certain the guy wouldn't be able to do a thing about it. To break him in spectacular fashion, he summoned his dragon-type creature, a stage 9 beast at rank 2. He knew the plant creature could be revived, but its master probably wouldn't bother after it got smashed to pieces. But after he shattered the ice statue, the opportunist realized his score hadn't moved at all. While he tried to figure out what was going on, a strange shape began to form right there in front of him. A cursed root grabbed the back of the guy's neck before he even realized what was happening. The long-haired bastard had come back to life, and his victim couldn't understand what was going on. That was his secret spiritual technique, letting him synchronize with his own beast. Desperate, the guy begged his dragon to attack immediately, but the creature couldn't obey, because it had already been seized by that cursed plant. Its vitality was being drained at an alarming rate. Running through the forest with his beasts, our protagonist was fully determined. If anything happened to his cousin, the one responsible would pay with their life. At that exact moment, she was being forced to defend herself from some candidates who were trying to take her down no matter what. Stacy was trapped inside a dome of energy and couldn't break free. The one responsible for that was the bald guy's creature, a black-scaled beast of ranking 3. There was no way to escape that prison of water from the inside. Now he was leaving the rest to the ugly girl, because if she managed to take those points, she would definitely reach first place. The girl asked if the bald guy couldn't finish the job because the girl inside was too beautiful. He went silent instantly, saying he wasn't interested in other girls. Because of that disagreement, they decided there was no need to rush. She was waiting for the big fish to finally bite her bait. That was what she wanted most. Before they noticed anything, spikes shot out from the ground. Even so, the bald guy used his water shield to prevent them from being violently impaled, and the ugly girl's creature shattered the dangerous formations. Our protagonist had finally arrived to enjoy himself, and he didn't like what he was seeing at all. He ordered them to get away from his cousin immediately. They noticed he had arrived with 2 beasts, which could be extremely dangerous for them. Even Stacy was shocked, but she didn't have time to dwell on it. She told him these opponents were tough and he needed to be very careful. But our protagonist was already in serious mode. The only thing that mattered was saving her, nothing else. The bald guy couldn't believe that this was the same talented student who passed the superior difficulty test. Meanwhile, the ugly girl was thrilled to finally meet him. She felt from the beginning that he wasn't like the others. The bald guy wanted to test his strength after exchanging a bit of violence, but the ugly girl told him to be cautious because their opponent's power was overwhelming. But he wanted to impress her, so he planned to defeat our protagonist and let his beloved absorb those points. Right after that, the bald guy launched himself into the attack, ordering his necromancer beast to restrict our protagonist's movements. Water began rising from the ground, and to prevent something worse, our protagonist had to use his spiritual power to cancel that technique. That shocked the bald guy. He finally realized his opponent was truly strong. Still distracted by that thought, he failed to notice Pebble approaching, ready to crush him with those fists. At the last second, the bald guy used a water technique to push the creature away and managed to trap it using the same technique he'd used on Stacy. One of the beasts was now out of the fight, but our protagonist didn't even flinch. He ordered Pebble to shift into his ghost form. As soon as he did, he escaped the aquatic prison. He immediately went back to attacking with his spikes. The strike nearly hit the necromancer, but it was also a creature capable of changing forms. Shifting into its ghost form, it dodged perfectly. The bald guy was thrilled, convinced his creature couldn't be defeated. He completely ignored the ugly girl's warning because danger was already coming from behind. Spikes shot up from the ground again, almost taking his life. Pebble was the one who did it, proving he's a very cunning creature. But the one behind the bald guy was only one of Pebble's clones. After getting hurt like that, our boy warned his opponent that he isn't intangible like ghosts, so he should be careful. That made the bald guy furious. Now he's ready to use the death sentence seal, which seems to be a brutal technique. His creature is gathering a dark and intense power that isolates Pebble completely in his spirit form. To prevent anything worse from happening, our boy ordered Pebble to return to his physical form, already thinking he might have to rely on Popsicle's power. The bald guy is exhausted and out of breath, yet he still has the nerve to belittle our boy's abilities. He wasn't expecting that our protagonist had run out of patience, promising to show his true strength now. While the ugly girl stood shocked, a massive energy spread through the entire area. It finally hit them. This wasn't a fight they could win, and if they didn't run now, they'd be eliminated instantly. Trying to stop anything even more gruesome from happening, the ugly girl begged our boy to wait, suggesting they resolve this through conversation. That offer managed to catch his attention. She said that all of them were already in the top 10, so there was no point in fighting anymore since they'd soon become classmates. Popsicle was ready to erase the girl, just waiting for our boy's command. Realizing her words weren't enough, the ugly girl demanded the bald guy release their hostage, but he was afraid that once freed, the girl might team up with the enemy, leaving them without any guarantee of survival. Annoyed, she ordered him to obey immediately, and that made the bald guy cancel his water prison. Stacy could finally move freely. Her Firebird was also ready to jump back into the fight, but before anything else, she ran to our boy to thank him. He told her not to worry. While he was there, no one would lay a hand on her. Now he could focus his killing intent on what truly mattered. Just because they let Stacy go didn't mean he would spare them. That declaration made the bald guy snap completely, ready to unleash everything he had to strike back. But the ugly girl said she had something that could satisfy our protagonist, revealing that she could use her sensitivity to help him unlock his own spiritual ability. Much calmer now, our boy acknowledged that it was a very appealing offer. The bald guy hated that idea, unwilling to see our protagonist receiving help. But after examining the expression on the ugly girl's face, he started falling into deep conspiracy thoughts, imagining he had already lost the love of his life. In the middle of all this chaos, another player appeared. Our boy hadn't imagined he was still alive, and the long-haired freak, who was truly a complete weirdo, was delighted that everyone was gathered together because now he could get rid of all of them at once. With another lunatic joining the mix, the bald guy grew even more furious, calling this entire situation disgraceful. The ugly girl stepped closer to our protagonist, suggesting they team up to take first place. But for our boy, this situation was getting messy. Time was also almost up. The professor, watching everything, wished he could keep some of these students. If they fought now, he would lose many valuable talents. Looking back, he said it was time for a mysterious person to step in, and she had 10 minutes to calm those students down. Meanwhile, the bald guy was trying to convince the ugly girl that he could beat those opponents, but she had already made her choice. She really wanted to help our protagonist. That revelation completely shattered the bald guy's sanity, making him absolutely certain she must like our protagonist. Accepting that rejection inside his own head, he swore he would wipe everyone out at once. The long-haired weirdo was excited about that too, since he enjoys a bit of violence. Then a mysterious voice ordered everyone to stop, announcing that all of them had passed the exam and now needed to complete a special mission. A large blue portal appeared in the middle of the forest. From inside it, several people emerged. Because those young candidates were far more talented than the others, they would be compared to second-year students. If they lost the fight, they would still remain approved, but if they won, they would receive rewards. Stacy thought that was unfair since they weren't even first-year students yet and were already being challenged by second years. Not to mention that all of them had just gone through brutal battles and their creatures were exhausted. Our protagonist didn't agree with that complaint at all. He had already called out their new opponents, inviting them to come practice a little violence. The long-haired creep was also annoyed since he wanted to defeat his competitors, but now he had to redirect his attention. Same for the bald guy who wanted to unleash his frustration on someone else. The ugly girl was thrilled, believing she had finally become an ally of our protagonist. She looked at him with admiration, while he saw nothing but an ugly girl. Jealous of that, Stacy said that her cousin hadn't agreed to any alliance yet. Our protagonist was very interested in that new reward. It would strengthen his body and his spiritual power. And since only 4 students had been sent to fight them, while the candidates numbered 5, maybe they were being underestimated. He looked at the ugly girl and told her that if she wanted to be an ally, she would have to help Stacy. But both girls wanted to pair up with him. Reassuring Stacy, he said he would fight alone, and the 2 of them would have better chances if they fought together. The first second year wanted to know which of the newcomers would face him. He looked like an athlete, confident he could handle more than one opponent at once. The bald guy had already chosen his opponent and was eager to crush him, hoping that with a show of strength he might win back the ugly girl's affection. The athletic student praised the bald guy's courage and after summoning his mantis, warned him to be cautious. His creature was already rank 3, stage 8. The maid outfit girl became interested in the long-haired creep because she found him attractive and wanted to fight him. Showing how twisted he was, he said he wouldn't go easy on her just because she was a girl. So she summoned her thunder lion, which was rank 3, stage 9. She didn't seem very sane herself and said she wanted to be hit with full force. Meanwhile, the ugly girl seemed to activate some kind of ocular technique. Among the remaining opponents, the other girl looked the weakest. That left for our protagonist a student who looked like a delinquent who didn't like our protagonist's haircut. Being perfectly polite, our protagonist asked his upperclassmen to go easy on him. Now the 2 girls with our protagonist would face a blue-haired student who actually complimented both their looks. She hated any woman prettier than her, so she wouldn't be holding back in this fight. That comment left the girls confused, because between the 2 of them, only one was actually pretty. Stacy is thrilled that our protagonist was victorious. That really is incredible. The other students who were defeated have already returned to reality, and many of them are disappointed. Blossom and Buttercup obviously were eliminated, but even so they're surprised by the outcome. Buttercup said there were too many geniuses in that dimension, and it would be almost impossible for side characters like them to advance to the next chapter, especially being drawn so modestly. One guy is disappointed because he played things too safely and still lost. Another is realizing his head still hurts a lot. The examiner is impressed. Some people really managed to go far this time. He's interrupted by someone who places a hand on his shoulder. It's the bespectacled professor who asks to be put in charge of the next test for those students. The examiner is surprised by his appearance, but he knows this professor uses extreme evaluation methods. That's exactly why the bespectacled professor wants to select a few more people from among those who failed. If he wants to do that, the examiner won't oppose anything, giving him permission to pick whoever he wants from the pile of rejects. With all the students watching, the bespectacled professor announces that he has 10 more spots. Anyone who passes his test can still be accepted. This instantly revitalizes everyone's spirits. Even Blossom and Buttercup see it as a chance delivered by fate, and this time they're ready to give it everything they have. Other side characters are also fired up. They don't want to lose an opportunity that just fell from the sky. Back in the dimension where our protagonist is, the violence continues. The bald candidate is already regretting everything because the difference in power between him and his opponent is enormous. The athletic student starts celebrating, calling the bald candidate a loser. In another battle, countless blows are exchanged. The depraved girl is impressed by how resilient the long-haired guy is. He managed to withstand many of her hits, but he's already lost this fight. All he can do now is regenerate and nothing else. She realizes he can't even hear her words anymore because of how much damage he took. Even the blue-haired girl is dominating. She can't believe she's standing above geniuses. Her creature is a berserker at stage 7 of ranking 3. So furious, she tells her opponents they should spend less time being pretty and more time training. Watching the test unfold, the bespectacled professor admits that the examiner's methodology is too harsh, but all of that exists to temper the spirits of warriors so they don't become arrogant too early. The bespectacled professor laughs at those words, because in the middle of that test, there seems to be someone who hasn't been affected by any of that. The creature of the delinquent is totally frozen and he can't understand what happened. Even seeing everything with his own eyes, he thinks it's impossible. But our protagonist won that duel effortlessly. He calmly approaches his upperclassmen to announce his victory. After watching everything closely, the examiner is delighted. He believes he hit the jackpot this time. He's seen many geniuses in his life, but what they're witnessing now is as if the legendary 8 prodigies themselves were blessing this young man. It's incredibly inspiring. Even the bespectacled professor believes our protagonist has even greater potential and wants to become his teacher immediately. That's when the examiner reminds him that students who make it into the top 10 must follow the institution's rules. Inside the dimension, the poor student with the questionable haircut is still trying to accept his defeat, and Stacy is thrilled by our protagonist's victory, finding it truly amazing. The ugly girl, on the other hand, is extremely confused. She never expected our protagonist to have that kind of strength. All of this happens while the bald guy is lamenting his own defeat, promising that he will turn all that frustration into motivation and that he will get his revenge. The other upperclassmen, now gathered, can't believe our protagonist managed to win since he hasn't even officially become a student there yet. But our guy is overflowing with confidence, suggesting that anyone who doesn't believe him should test him while they still can. He even suggested that all 3 attack him right now, so there would be no excuses later. The athlete senior immediately ordered his mantis to attack, but Pebble wasn't going to allow that. The creature blocked the arthropod's strike with ease, and it was time for it to return the violence. The teachers already know those seniors are no match for our protagonist. If things continue like this, the second-year students will be completely crushed, and our guy will only make more enemies. Thinking of everyone's well-being, the evaluator announced the end of the assessment, praising everyone's performance but declaring our protagonist the winner of that session. That forced the athlete senior to abort his attack, but he promised they would settle things soon as our guy joined the academy. But our protagonist said there was no reason for all that, saying his senior was the best among them. After such a confident display, those words only hurt the senior's pride even more, and now he's determined to restore his honor. Finally, the seniors were taken back outside. Our protagonist received the reward for the last assessment, having his constitution strengthened along with his spiritual power. On top of that, he officially became a student of the academy, and the system rewarded him with 500 conquest points. Pebble's growth rate also increased to 33%. Popsicle's only went up to 12%, since she was already at a higher level. Now all the extras want to know who our protagonist is and why he's so talented. Every time our guy wakes up from meditation, he's surrounded by random extras, and it's already getting a bit embarrassing. The ugly girl immediately approached him because she had something to say about Pebble. She believes he might have another unexplored form, but if he wants to learn his exclusive spiritual technique, he'll need to look for her after the exam. Our protagonist isn't very interested in looking for that woman, but he'll certainly do it because of what he stands to gain. The evaluator asked everyone to be quiet, informing them that the top 10 students were officially admitted. Then it was time to announce the higher-ranked ones. The first to be called was the long-haired guy. All the extras started applauding, but they were confused, since they knew someone far better than him was standing there. Even the long-haired guy agrees with that. He knows our protagonist did far better, and now he feels humiliated for receiving recognition that doesn't belong to him. Congrats to him. He might be a weirdo, but at least he has self-awareness. The glasses teacher also disagreed and asked the evaluator if this was fair. In response, he heard that they cannot put all their hopes on a single person. Besides, first place would be based on the score from the first phase. After that, the glasses teacher told the remaining students to follow him, while those in the top 10 could wait for the entrance ceremony, which would take place in the next 10 days. Stacy went to speak with her friends to encourage them, believing they managed to secure a spot in the academy. The one who approached the protagonist was that chubby guy. He had gathered a lot of information, but it still wasn't enough. The person he'd been looking for was right beside him the whole time, and after watching the boys' last fight, he now had a proposal to make. Our protagonist decided to hear him out, and the chubby guy wanted to become his lackey, an almost indecent offer for our protagonist. The opportunistic chubby guy kept insisting, saying he admired him deeply, but he was harshly rejected. Not to mention he hadn't even been accepted into the academy yet. Even so, the fat guy swore he would pass, asking his boss to just wait for him. The long-haired guy watched all of this with irritation. Now, our protagonist is outside, and Stacy suggested they do something fun on their free day to celebrate. The protagonist agreed. The last hours had been exhausting, so relaxing sounded great. Stacy then suggested they return to their city only the next day because she wanted to spend the night in town. Looking warmly at her, Linu agreed. That seemed to make the girl genuinely happy. But there was a big problem they needed to solve immediately. If they were going to stay one more night, they would need to pay for lodging. And our protagonist had spent all his money buying materials for that disobedient monster Pebble. Stacy wanted to know what was wrong, noticing her cousin's worry, and suggested they go eat something first. Without telling her the truth, he agreed, and they went to an expensive tamer-only restaurant. Once inside, our protagonist started getting really nervous. He didn't expect a place that allowed tame beasts to be present. Stacy had always wanted to visit, and she wanted to summon her beast too. After that exam, it deserved a good meal. He agreed, swallowing his fear about the bill. Soon the table was completely packed. Stacy was surprised by Popsicle's development. The first time she saw her, she looked like a little girl. Now she seemed like a gorgeous woman. Our protagonist claimed it was their compatibility that accelerated her growth, but he knew it was the system's doing. He thinks he'll tell the truth someday, but for now, he'll stick to that explanation. Stacy wanted to learn more from him, but decided to place her order first. She carefully looked over the menu, and every price on it was terrifying for a broke protagonist. Pebble didn't care at all. He was already excited for food. Popsicle, meanwhile, seemed to like the Firebird and was gently petting it. The waitress finally approached the table to take their orders, and Stacy, thrilled, ordered a huge meal, pushing the protagonist to the brink of collapse. 5 minutes later, everything arrived at the table. Everyone's excitement was obvious, but our protagonist was devastated. He would have preferred to fight a demon beast rather than face a situation where he had to spend money he didn't have. The creatures stuffed themselves. Pebble's stomach was swollen like a drum. Our protagonist had no idea what to do now and even considered running away without paying. The waitress brought him the bill, a total of 37,000 coins. Stacy immediately offered to pay, saying she had savings and wanted to treat them. The waitress was shocked by the gesture, while our protagonist silently thanked every deity that existed. Outside, the sky was already shining with stars. Stacy admired the beauty of the city at night. Just thinking about studying there, alongside her cousin in the future, filled her with joy. Linny realized it was time to start making real money, but taking on missions at this point might already be too late. While they were walking down the sidewalk, they passed by a very lively establishment. The place was called the Circle of Death, and it immediately sparked curiosity in both of them. Inside that venue, creatures were put to fight, and a big crowd was gathered there to enjoy that violence with rules. The creature that came out victorious was at stage 2 of ranking 3, and it seemed very strong. The announcer for the night wanted to know if there were any more challengers, because whoever won would receive the full prize. All they needed was to pay a registration fee of 300 coins. The prize was 50,000, and our protagonist immediately realized this was a great opportunity to make money. Within seconds, he and Pebble were ready to go after that reward. Pebble was extremely confident because there's only one thing he likes more than violence, and that thing is more violence. Stacy was shocked when she found out our protagonist was actually entering that competition. But for him, if they were offering that much money, there was no way he could ignore such a good chance. Since there was a small power gap between him and his opponent, he decided to make some minor upgrades to Pebble's strength. For that, he would use the system. After spending 780 conquest points, Pebble advanced to stage 3 of ranking 3. The higher the level, the more expensive the upgrades become. Stacy noticed Pebble had just gotten stronger and wanted to know how that happened. Our protagonist said it might have been a result of the good meal he had earlier that night. Now the girl was extremely motivated, believing our protagonist really could win. The announcer called out that a new challenger had appeared, asking the audience to applaud his courage. He introduced the weird-looking boy and his equally strange red-haired beast, who were now stepping into the circle of death. People in the crowd thought the newcomer must be completely insane, since Pebble didn't look like a particularly strong creature. Standing across from Pebble was a large creature with 4 arms. The owner of that creature approached our protagonist, saying he should take responsibility for his beast because there was a chance it could lose its life in this fight. Filled with confidence, Linu told his opponent not to hold back. After hearing that, the guy was convinced he had been paired with a completely arrogant challenger. Once introductions were done, our protagonist signed a contract taking responsibility for everything. When all the formalities were settled, the announcer declared that his part was over and the match would begin. The guy ordered his 4-armed beast to attack immediately. It tried to grab Pebble, but its agility was too low. That made Linu realize the speed advantage belonged to them. Right after, Pebble tried to hit his enemy with a powerful kick, but one of the creature's 4 arms managed to catch him. Frustrated, Pebble tried to attack again, but his strike was blocked. Now he had been completely restrained. Unable to move, he was heavily punished by the creature. The blow was strong enough to crack his armor. Our protagonist was surprised by that sheer brute force. The guy said his monster might not have many abilities, but when it came to raw strength, it was stronger than creatures above its level. These rules really favored the opponent. Now our protagonist understood why they were so confident. The 4-armed mutant was about to land a devastating blow. But Pebble was not defeated yet. He immediately started moving to escape. Even so, he was grabbed by one of its legs, giving the other arms the chance to strike him once more. The extra on the other side isn't impressed at all with Pebble's physical abilities. Even the crowd is already calling it a massacre, which leaves Stacy really worried. If our boy were allowed to use abilities, Pebble's ghost form would solve everything. But the rules don't allow that, only raw physical strength. Even so, he remembered the ugly girl's advice. The last time Pebble unlocked a new form was when he was in danger. So Linu decided to push things a bit further. He asked his creature if it was really fighting with everything it had, because he wanted to know whether Pebble would always depend on another creature's power to win. Lying on the ground, Pebble was seconds away from having his head crushed by the enemy. But right before that happened, he found hatred buried deep in his heart. He jumped up, landing a devastating blow on the mutant creature. The impact was so strong that the rocks wrapped around his arm began to crumble. Pebble no longer had any rocks left on his body. He had transformed once again. This was the form of the Ghost General, but it would only last for 1 minute. His defenses were lowered, but his speed had quadrupled. The surprise transformation was finally achieved, proving that the stone armor could be discarded depending on the situation. With his massive boost in speed, hitting Pebble became nearly impossible, but the extra on the other side was still confident. He believed his creature would land a hit, until Pebble vanished in front of everyone. The extra began slowly losing control of himself in absolute fear. Pebble was now free to attack however he wanted. The mutant tried to fight back, but it couldn't even see what was happening. Pebble, meanwhile, was clearly enjoying himself, relentlessly bullying the creature with overwhelming violence. With only 10 seconds left in that form, our boy ordered Pebble to finish the match. Pebble closed in for the final blow, executing a lightning-charged strike. The 4-armed mutant collapsed onto the ground, defeated with a deep scar carved across its chest. Thanks to this victory, Pebble advanced to stage 4 of rank 3 and unlocked this new attack. His body then reverted back into the stone armor. Deeply disappointed, the extra was still trying to understand what had happened. The crowd was also confused. What they had just witnessed was terrifying. The announcer finally prepared to declare the winner. To our protagonist's surprise, the 4-armed mutant was announced as the victor. The crowd also felt something was wrong. They knew exactly who had won, but some people were claiming that our protagonist broke the rules by using an ability. That's what the announcer declared. Since Pebble used a sole ability, they were disqualified. Many people didn't agree at all, saying Pebble only dropped his armor, and that the decision felt extremely unfair. Still, this result brought some relief to the competing extra, who said it wouldn't be so easy to walk out the prize. Our boy accepted the loss calmly, but immediately challenged his opponent to a one-on-one fight. The winner would take the prize. Being challenged boosted the extra's confidence. Meanwhile, the announcer hyped the crowd even more, revealing that the extra was actually a former professional fighter. The crowd went wild. If there's something they love more than violence, it's watching blood spill. Our protagonists said that a fight between the two of them would be far more interesting than a fight between creatures. Pebble was still upset about the outcome, but our boy told him he was already a winner, and now it was his turn to secure a victory too. As soon as he heard those words, Pebble's whole mood changed. The announcer looked at the fighter, realizing the challenge had been accepted. Our protagonist is the first person to challenge him like this, and if he manages to win, he can take the entire prize. The poor fighter is convinced he's going to teach Linyu a lesson. The crowd is shouting in unison for blood to be spilled, and Stacy is extremely tense about all of this. The fighter has already taken his combat stance because he wants to enjoy himself for real. Out in the streets, the bald guy and the ugly girl are walking together. He can't believe his friend is in love, and she says she only sees him as a friend. That comment hurts his ego deeply, because he refuses to believe he's inferior to our protagonist. Walking away from him, the ugly girl says she's responsible for her own decisions, suggesting that the bald guy return to the hotel and get some rest. He watches her walk away with great sadness. Continuing on his lonely path, the bald guy promises to himself that he will surpass our protagonist. That's when he hears someone calling for help. A girl lying on the ground seems to have been attacked. Since the bald guy is desperate to vent his anger, he kicks the creature that seems responsible for this. He immediately goes to help the girl, asking where that dangerous creature appeared from. Then a mysterious voice from the rooftops says there is no such thing as a dangerous creature in this world. The mysterious man jumps down to the ground. This makes the bald guy even more worried, because this man seems dangerous. Like a typical villain, he starts a speech about morality, saying that if a beast is used by humans, it's considered good, and if it isn't, it's considered evil. But the bald guy is too dense to understand any of that. The villain says beasts live much longer than humans, and since many of them are loyal, sometimes they refuse to take a new master after losing their first one, living a life of loneliness and sometimes being labeled as dangerous. But the bald guy has no patience for this kind of speech and immediately calls out his creature to deliver some violence. Only then the villain recognizes him, saying the bald guy's name is Tan Yang. This leaves him confused, because that's the name of his grandfather. The bald guy suggests the villain surrender now so his punishment can be lighter. Before the violence begins, the villain tells his creature to step aside. A sinister energy begins forming at his fingertips, and with it, he touches the forehead of the fox that had been defeated. Whatever he's doing is causing a chaotic reaction. The fox is engulfed in a dark, malevolent energy, transforming completely, and the bald guy is not understanding any of this. The villain says he had wanted to find the bald guy earlier, but since they have crossed paths here, he'll see whether the guy is worth using. But the bald guy is now filled with deep terror, because that fox has turned into a demonic creature. After separating from the bald guy, the ugly girl finds the circle of death. She hears the screams coming from inside and becomes curious. What she sees is surprising. Our protagonist is inside the arena. She immediately starts cheering for him, not realizing she's standing next to Stacy. Eventually, the two of them realize what's going on. The fighter is bragging about all of his achievements, but our protagonist knows the average constitution of a person ranges between 2 and 4, and that guy is probably at most an 8. After all that showboating, the fighter knows most people would already be shaking in fear. Even so, he guarantees that our protagonist can throw the first punch so he can understand the difference between them. The announcer encourages our protagonist to do it, telling him to be cautious because he might end up breaking his own hand. Full of confidence, the guy told the crowd to keep their eyes on him, and our boy promised he wouldn't hold back at all. He aimed straight for the guy's face, which was immediately crushed in a violent blow. The force of the impact also sent his body flying, making him crash into the middle of the audience, most likely unconscious. The poor soul won't even remember what happened that day. The lights are on, but nobody's home. The announcer panicked since the house fighter had been defeated with a single hit. Stacy and the not-so-pretty girl were celebrating the victory, but quickly realized what had happened. Since the two of them are romantic rivals, they immediately stepped away from each other. Faced with the defeat, the announcer made up another rule, saying that since he hadn't officially announced the start of the match, our boy was disqualified. That triggered an enormous murderous intent from our protagonist, who intimidated the announcer and made him change his mind instantly, declaring Linyu the true winner of the duel. Thanks to that, our guy earned 50,000 coins, more than enough to pay for the night in the city. As soon as he left the arena, he was greeted by the girls. The less attractive one told him he did great and admitted she didn't believe he would win. Then Stacy appeared, questioning why the two of them were standing so close. But the girl came prepared. Since she and Linyu had once been on the same team, she said it was fair to say they were still partners. Since they'd all be in the same class soon, she wanted to introduce herself properly. Her name is Guixino, incredibly hard to say, but calling her ugly girl is getting old, so Becky will be her name now. Linyu's cousin didn't like that at all. He wanted to know what the girls were doing there. Becky explained she'd been looking for him so she could help awaken his exclusive soul ability, but only if she were treated as a friend, then she'd help him. To get that done, our boy suggested they find a quieter place. A few hours later, he had no idea how the three of them ended up renting a single hotel room together. Still, it was time to begin. Not what we wanted, but what the plot is delivering. Becky said her exclusive power is called perception. She awakened it at 7 years old, sensing things normal people ignore, like future events or auras. Stacy had never heard of such an ability and thought it was amazing, but our protagonist wanted to know how she could help them. Becky asked him to close his eyes. Without hesitation, he obeyed. She approached to perform the process, which immediately sparked Stacy's jealousy, but Becky told her to be quiet. It was the only way she could sense his power. She needed full concentration to guide him. With his eyes closed, Becky noticed her own heart speeding up, forcing her to focus harder. With her technique, she managed to see something hidden, the silhouette of a creature. It seemed to be a contracted beast, but not like any of the ones our protagonist had. It looked more like a fusion of the two. That description made him extremely curious. But Becky's constitution wasn't strong enough yet, so her vision was vague. Then she performed the same process with Stacy, who didn't want to press her forehead against another girl, but Becky insisted it was necessary to explore her hidden potential. Finally, she began concentrating intensely on that mysterious space. What she saw with her inner sight was a massive creature, and several others bowing before it. The larger creature felt that it was being washed. That filled Becky with deep fear, and she pulled back in a panic, making Stacy immediately ask what she had seen. Becky said it was nothing, just a mass of shadows, and that Stacy's potential might simply not have awakened yet. However, even without knowing what those shadows really are, she has a terrible feeling about it, so she chose not to tell the truth. It was getting later and later. Sitting on the bed, Becky said it was already very dark outside, and she was just a defenseless girl who could run into dangerous people. She believed her new companions would certainly let her sleep there. Our protagonist was still confused, but his cousin was overflowing with anger. In the end, all three of them would sleep in the same room. Our boy ended up in the middle of the bed between two women, and that strange situation made it impossible for him to sleep. But the girls were also very alert, ready to act at any moment. The poor guy just wanted a night of rest, and now he was caught in the middle of a war. To distract himself, he started thinking about merging his two creatures. It was time for Pebble and Popsicle to finally become good friends. At last, 10 days passed, and the admission ceremony would take place that day. The classroom placements were revealed to the students. Our protagonist was anxious to find his name. Looking at the board, he saw his name in the first class. That was extremely satisfying for him, because it meant he would be in the same class as his cousin. Another person also placed in their class was Becky. That news instantly wiped away all of Stacy's joy. The bald guy also showed up that morning, covered in injuries as if he'd been in a car accident. Worried, Becky asked what had happened to him. It seemed he'd gotten into a fight. He said he had run into some troublesome people. He was placed in the second class. Now separated from the girl he loves, he believes fate is tormenting him. Another furious person was the long-haired guy who wasn't placed in the same class as his rival. He felt an overwhelming urge to end it right there. Stacy also noticed that her friends had been accepted into the academy. Buttercup said the two of them were in class 4, and only the first two classes were for elite students, receiving even more privileges. Blossom, full of malicious intentions, was eager to thank Stacy for training them earlier. Now all the students were standing before the evaluator. He would be the professor responsible for their class and would guide them on the path of cultivation for the next 3 years. Since they will have many different subjects, he said they are free to attend or skip classes as they wish, but he had only one request. Even if they skip classes, they must not stop cultivating, because there will be periodic assessments that could lower their rank. The top 3 students would receive a bonus of 100,000 coins, and that news made our protagonist extremely happy. Stacy was shocked by the amount because with 2 bonuses, she could buy a high-level beast. The professor also said there were many clubs in the academy, and the students should explore everything the school offered. There was also a mandatory program they needed to join, the virtual combat system, capable of hosting thousands of students at the same time. That would allow them to gain real experience and raise their beasts' levels. Because it's virtual, they could fight students from across the Federation. With that, they could earn great rewards and gain points to determine their ranks, bronze, silver, or gold. Our protagonist realized he needed to strengthen Pebble so it could reach the same level as Popsicle. When he returned to his quarters, he ended up trying something. He wanted the creatures to fuse, but that command failed because there's a difference in their levels. Now the teacher had nothing else to say, so he dismissed the class, and our protagonist is really eager to find out how virtual combat works. Several upperclassmen would love to have him in their clubs, and right now he's receiving a bunch of invitations, but he chose to reject all of them because he doesn't know what to decide yet. That's when he noticed a very tall person approaching. Linyu asked who that person was, and a girl said that group belongs to one of the biggest clubs in the academy. All their members are elites, and their representative is a second-year student ranked among the top 3. Those people are heading straight toward our protagonist, and among them is that athlete senior who wants to fight our guy. Their leader's name is Luan, and he came to confirm our protagonist's identity. Behind him, the athlete senior confirmed it. Becky thinks our guy is in trouble now and that this might get complicated. Even so, our protagonist doesn't get intimidated and wants to know why they came. Luan said he's giving him a chance. If he joins the club, they'll forget all the issues from before, making it clear that this invitation isn't something offered to just anyone. Our guy refused immediately. Joining a club now will only bring problems and won't speed up his growth. Luan didn't like being rejected because that invitation is a big opportunity. The athlete senior said our guy is ungrateful, and if he doesn't join now, he'll become their enemy. But our protagonist doesn't have time for that and simply walked away, ignoring all of them. That awakened a murderous hatred in Luan's heart. Becky now understands why she became so interested in him. Stacy is worried because this might cause future problems, but our guy still doesn't want to join any club right now. He finally went to see the virtual combat room. A bunch of people are already there training. Our protagonist decided it's time to try it too. Stacy is with him because she doesn't want to fall behind. After beginning the meditation, our protagonist slowly opened his eyes. He's now in another dimension. Here he can see his basic stats. For now, he has no victories, and his rank is very low. He decided to set a small goal, to reach the top 10,000. His first battle will start soon, and the system told him to get ready. The scenery completely changed, and now his new opponent is standing across from him. Lin Yu is impressed with this place, a huge open plain. The opponent asked if this was his first time, wanting to know if our protagonist is just a student. Lin Yu confirmed both things. His opponent felt like he could take advantage of that. Every year, lots of newcomers enter that system at the beginning of the semester, and today must be his lucky day. After summoning his beast, the guy is sure he'll get a few free points, but the creature is only rank 2, it's not even worth an extra page in this chapter. Feeling motivated, the guy thinks he'll have a great fight. After seeing that creature, Lin Yu understood why this guy was matched with a complete beginner. But since he needs to fight, he called Pebble to practice some violence, and even Pebble, a fan of brutality, was disappointed by his opponent. Even so, the guy still thinks he'll show the difference in power. But Pebble only needed one kick. The pig was already out cold, leaving his owner completely hysterical. The defeat came way too fast. After that victory, our boy kept fighting, slowly climbing up in the rankings. The creatures he faced so far were challenging of all, and Pebble kept proving just how versatile he is in combat. After 2 days of practice, he managed to strengthen his beasts, and for reaching the top 100,000, the system rewarded him with 1,000 conquest points. In just 2 days, Pebble advanced 3 stages, but the poor creature is completely exhausted. What our protagonist achieved is already gaining attention, since he's ranked surprisingly high for someone who's only been practicing a few days. Stacy, who's also tired, wants to know when he even woke up. The long-haired guy is nearby too. Our boy knows that one has potential as well, and the long-haired guy is shocked they've been grinding all this time. Our protagonist asks if he's giving up already, but instead he has to listen to the long-haired idiot brag about reaching the top 150,000 in just 3 days. He thinks he finally surpassed our boy, but Stacy is already aware of the truth. She tells him that Lin Yu is in the top 100,000. That news completely crushes the long-haired guy's ego. Now outside, Stacy has questions. She can't get past rank 180,000 and is thinking about buying another creature, and she wants his recommendation. But our protagonist is surprised he didn't know she managed to get a second contract. Annoyed, Stacy says she was the only one in her class who did the exam in the advanced difficulty. Our boy says he remembers that perfectly well. He was only pretending to forget to tease her. Anyway, he wants to know if she already has a creature in mind, but she's still thinking about something that could help her Firebird. Lin Yu tells her not to worry, since he has a lot of experience choosing beasts. He promises to help her, thinking to himself that he'll pick something with a hidden evolution path. Now Stacy is really happy and wants to buy the creature this weekend. While the two of them talk, Becky watches from afar. After our protagonist says goodbye and ends up alone, she seizes the chance to approach. She says that those two are really close, studying, eating, training together, and that's why she has a question. She wants to know what kind of relationship they have. That makes our protagonist uncomfortable, and he dodges the question, saying he's heading to his room to rest. But Becky grabs his hands, saying he might be in danger soon. She says the bald guy was attacked recently by a mysterious person, and from what she heard from him, all first-year students are potential targets. Our protagonist wants to know who these people are and what they want, but Becky can't say. All she knows is that they're strong and have techniques that can turn beasts into demons, so she wanted to warn him. He thanks her and heads off to rest. Thinking about what she saw inside Stacy, those shadows, Becky becomes worried for her. After resting enough, our protagonist returns to his goal of reaching the top 10,000. With little practice time and using Popsicle's power, he's only 2 ranks away. The mysterious attacker who beat the bald guy is watching something closely on his computer. He's already tracked our protagonist's progress and finds it very interesting. It's time to send someone to test him. Meanwhile, Lin Yu keeps practicing. His opponent this time is a masked man bearing the symbol of that strange group. Lin Yu wonders since when wearing masks in battle has become trendy, but the man doesn't answer anything. He simply summons his beasts, both rank 4, stage 1. He said his opponent also had 2 creatures, but that didn't bother our protagonist at all. He summoned Popsicle and Pebble for the fight. Facing 2 creatures at rank 4, he realized that higher rank opponents are extremely powerful. The masked fighter already knew he was fighting Lin Yu and was impressed that he had climbed the ranks so quickly. But he claimed Lin Yu had only faced weaklings until now. Only after this fight would Lin Yu truly enter the top 10,000, and after that he'd be qualified to work for their group. Hearing of a strange invitation, Lin Yu got annoyed and told him to start the battle already. The masked fighter wanted to show the difference in strength between them. His fish immediately launched a water attack, but Popsicle blocked it with an ice barrier, giving Pebble an opening to attack and shatter all that ice. The turtle on the other side responded by shooting out spikes. Feeling the danger closing in, Pebble shifted into his ghost form to avoid taking damage. The turtle then turned itself into a rolling bulldozer, trying to run Popsicle over, but she defended with another ice barrier and pushed the turtle back. Then she noticed the other creature approaching. The cursed fish was trying to hit her with filthy water. Trapped inside the liquid, she realized the turtle was charging again. Pebble tried to block its advance by creating spikes in its path, but they weren't enough. The turtle kept coming. Popsicle already knew what she had to do. She'd unleashed a massive ice attack, freezing part of the turtle's shell and forcing it to retreat before it was completely frozen. The masked fighter was impressed, saying Linu truly had skill, but Linu knew he had been on the defensive the whole time. His opponents were working together with perfect coordination, and he needed to improve the synergy between his own creatures. The masked man warned that the real fight was only beginning. The turtle coated its body with mud while the fish sprayed water over it, causing the mud to change properties. A heavy armor formed around the turtle's entire body. Linu had never seen a technique like that. Once again, the turtle charged in its rolling form. Pebble, furious, went in to strike, while Linu ordered Popsicle to use her extreme cold domain. She began freezing everything in front of her, even managing to freeze the turtle's armored body long enough for Linu to deliver a powerful strike, but even that wasn't enough to cause real damage. The masked fighter explained that spiked turtles naturally had higher defense than most creatures, and with frozen mud armor it was harder than metal. To melt the ice, the fish began spitting boiling water, something that shocked Linu. The turtle broke free and started moving again. Popsicle couldn't use the same technique in such a short interval, so Linu relied on his defensive studies. A massive collision happened. His shield shattered completely. The masked fighter believed victory was near. Popsicle was furious about what had happened, but Linu told her it was fine. They had lost fairly, and they still had room to grow. The masked fighter was impressed by Linu's courage, risking his own life to protect his creatures. That, he said, was exactly why the boss had his eyes on him. He has no idea what that masked man is talking about. Because of that, the masked man told him to join their group, the Symbiosis Group, saying they could help him awaken his hidden potential. From the name alone, Linu is sure this isn't a group from the Academy, and he wants to know what their real objective is. But the masked man said he only needs a yes or no answer. Since time is short, he needs it now. Our boy refused the offer, saying he wants to defeat this enemy using his own potential. The masked man accepted his answer, saying he'll wait patiently for him. News of his defeat started spreading, and some people already think he isn't as talented as they thought. The long-haired student is watching everything unfold online, noticing that our protagonist now has a lot of haters. But when he approached him, that wasn't the topic he wanted to discuss. He immediately asked if Linu had met the Symbiosis Group. Linu even asked if the long-haired guy had joined them, but he said no. Anyone who tries to brag in front of him will become a target for revenge. That made our protagonist ask if he knows the origin of that group. He doesn't yet, but promised to find out soon. It seems there are several people involved in that organization, and maybe Becky warned him about them that day. Now our boy wants to meet the masked guy again to get more information, because he has a bad feeling about this. At the moment, Pebble is at stage 7 of rank 3, and Popsicle is at stage 2 of rank 4. With his conquest points, he could strengthen Pebble, but he still needs the required materials. To get everything, he'll need to spend 400,000 coins. While he was distracted thinking about that, the chubby guy found him. He had heard about the defeat. Linu said he's not invincible, and since the chubby guy is well informed, he asked if he knows where to find high-level earth essences and nutrient stones. The chubby guy said those items are treasures and asked how many he needs. Linu said he wants 30 of the first item and 3 nutrient stones, which shocked the chubby guy. That's a lot, but he knows a place where Linu can get those materials and decided to take him there. That answer pleased our protagonist. They headed toward the mountain region. Before the ancient war, several dimensional rifts appeared around the world, and that rift leads to another dimension where the beasts originally came from. Decades ago, the association managed to explore these rifts, securing a constant flow of valuable resources, but there are still unexplored areas. Some people tried to go deeper, but never returned, so those places were sealed. Our boy asked if he'll really get what he wants by going in there. The chubby guy said talented people have come back before, and he worked very hard to get that information. The secret realm has plenty of high-level resources, including the ones Linu needs. Now that he has that information, he's ready to enter the dimension with the chubby guy. The two walk up to the dimensional rift. But before going in, the chubby guy has an announcement to make. He tells Linu to think carefully about what he's doing. If there's danger on the other side, he might not come back. But for our protagonist, this is a risk worth taking to get what he needs. And if the chubby guy is scared, he can turn back early. Mustering what little courage he has, the chubby guy decides to go in as well, believing he can gather valuable information about this place. And with Linu at his side, he thinks he'll return safely, and maybe even get rich. Finally, the two of them decide to step into the dimensional rift, being pulled into a dark cave. Inside that place, there are several types of minerals. The chubby guy immediately summons his creature. It starts collecting some stones, which are essential for strengthening low-level Earth-type beasts, and they're usually expensive outside. That's why he wants his creature to keep collecting them. But our protagonist feels that something is wrong. They soon spot a lizard hiding on the wall. It isn't threatening, since it's only ranking 2. Our boy is surprised to realize that rare materials grow on the bodies of certain beasts. He even thinks the chubby guy can handle that lizard, and he's ready to fight now. After swallowing the creature, the chubby guy expects it to be digested soon. But to his shock, the lizard gets spat back out. His beast says that material is too hard and can't be eaten. That surprises our protagonist, who realizes the chubby guy can understand his beast's language. The lizard, on the other hand, is furious. Now our protagonist is completely surrounded by these little creatures. The chubby guy panics because he knows his beast isn't good for this type of group battle. But our protagonist is already prepared. He calls Popsicle to have some fun, and she freezes the enemies. Then Pebble shows up to crush their bodies with pure violence. The chubby guy is thrilled because now he can collect resources without any worry. He says he'll gather everything for our protagonist and keep 70% when they leave, but our boy tells him to throw those items away. The chubby guy is horrified because he knows they're valuable, but our protagonist knows the chubby guy's beast can't carry much and low-level items aren't important. They'll find far better things soon. Thinking about it that way, the chubby guy agrees and they move deeper into the cave. Along the walls, several creatures can be seen, but our protagonist still hasn't found what he's looking for, so they keep going. Eventually, they reach a very suspicious area. The chubby guy gets nervous and asks what those things are. Before he can react, a stone serpent bites his beast. Our protagonist is almost attacked as well, but manages to dodge. The serpent then gets smashed by Pebble's blows. These stone serpents are ranking 3 and can be a problem since they hide in the terrain. Our protagonist focuses on understanding their attack pattern so he can defeat them the moment they appear. The chubby guy is still stressing over his beast, which has been grabbed by one of the serpents. He decides he won't give up on it, but doesn't realize something is behind him. He gets captured by another stone serpent. He has no other choice. He's begging to be saved. Our protagonist notices this isn't the first time and probably won't be the last. Thanks to his protective shield, he avoids the serpent's attack, giving Pebble the chance to grab one of them. That gives Popsicle a fixed target. Her ice spikes strike the creature at the same time Pebble dodges. The chubby guy wants to know why Pebble didn't use his ghost form. If he did, he wouldn't need to dodge. The serpent tries to escape by burrowing into the ground, but Pebble grabs its tail. That gives another serpent the chance to strike him from behind, but Pebble is too fast and avoids the hit. The creature he let go of tries to attack from behind again, and the chubby guy shouts a warning. Even so, our boy wants Pebble to hold on a little longer. Finally, it's time for Popsicle to jump in. She freezes everything around them while Pebble switches to his ghost form. The enemies are finally defeated. Now the chubby guy understands that Pebble was being used as bait so Popsicle could finish the job. With the enemies frozen, Pebble shattered their bodies using the wonderful power of violence. At last, our boy got the essences he was looking for, only 28 more to go. Meanwhile, the chubby guy and his creature are still in danger. They were dragged deeper into the cave, into a lower chamber. Not knowing where they are, he panics when he sees countless pairs of threatening eyes. Dozens of stone serpents are closing in, and now he's fully regretting this dangerous trip. Then a beam of light suddenly breaks through from above. It's our protagonist. The chubby guy's heart fills with joy because he's about to be saved. Since he still needs 28 more stones, our protagonist basically found a gold mine. Down on a lower platform, the chubby guy insists he never doubted our boy's heroism. But since he's surrounded by stone serpents, he's desperate to be saved fast. Our boy orders Popsicle to take action. In the middle of that fierce fight, the chubby guy even asks his creature if she also thinks they're going to die there. Thanks to all that brutal attacking, our protagonist is gathering all the resources he needs. He's targeting juvenile serpents. They're much weaker than the adults. After defeating them all, he hears the chubby guy sigh in relief for surviving. Now the chubby guy is completely charmed, seeing him as a true savior. His admiration doesn't last long though. More serpents appear. The chubby guy loses his mind again, since he's always the target. Our protagonist orders Pebble to save him immediately. Pebble grabs the creature and the chubby guy midair and drops them safely on the ground without much gentleness. Now Pebble can go back to what he loves most in life, living for violence. Our protagonist feels the creature's rage. It's time to seize the opportunity. Popsicle and Pebble need to show the results of their training. The stone serpent lunges. Popsicle dodges the attack, but Pebble simply becomes a ghost. With perfect distance, Popsicle uses another technique, creating chains of ice to bind the creature. Unable to escape, it's time for Pebble to deliver some free violence. He even uses his ghost general form, smashing the serpent's head with brutal force. With another victory, Pebble reaches stage 8 of rank 3. Since they completely destroyed the nest, our protagonist receives 500 conquest points from the system, plus 10 earth element stones and 1 nutrition stone. A very satisfying haul. Just a bit more and Pebble will become even stronger. The chubby guy appears to praise everything that happened, and it's time to continue treasure hunting. But then a person reveals himself, saying that the battle was incredible and acknowledging that Linu truly deserves his attention. Our protagonist has no idea who this person is or how he knows his name. Feeling the danger, the chubby guy refuses to approach. That mysterious man begins talking about his identity, confident that our protagonist must have heard something important before. The symbiosis group. Hearing those words shocks our boy, and the moment he hears them, the chubby guy panics completely. Our protagonist never imagined this stranger would know about that group, but the chubby guy knows a lot of things. 2 days earlier, the long-haired guy had asked the chubby one to investigate this matter. These people attack beast hammers and steal their creatures. Their argument is that they're protecting beasts. Their doctrine is granting freedom through symbiosis. Behind that mysterious man stood a large beast, the same one that beat up the bald guy. The stranger explained that ever since the catastrophe centuries ago, beasts from other dimensions started entering the human world. Those that could be tamed were welcomed, while the untamable ones were labeled dangerous. He disagreed with that, and honestly, he wasn't wrong about everything. He claimed human society is obsessed with judging others and categorizing entire species through arbitrary standards. This world was extremely unfair, and the symbiosis group sought to end that injustice. He then said that our protagonist had remarkable talent and that he wanted to help him reach his full potential. He only needed to join the organization. He even promised to help both creatures achieve king status. This shocked our boy. He didn't expect anyone else to know about that secret evolution path. Something didn't feel right. He agreed some injustices existed, but he didn't want to join a group that manipulated others. The chubby guy warned him not to listen. He had investigated this man, and they used fancy speeches to deceive people. They were nothing more than terrorists. If they truly had the power they boasted about, they would have destroyed the association long ago. Seeing they didn't believe him, the stranger decided to demonstrate his power. His beast brought over a baby rock serpent. Slowly, the mysterious man interacted with it. Within seconds, the serpent began to change. A terrifying roar echoed through the cavern. The man had performed some kind of transformation, freeing the serpent so it could be reborn full of power. Releasing its true nature was, according to him, the first step toward evolution. Lindu noticed the serpent's rank had risen by 3 levels, and judging by the technique used, this man was likely the one who attacked the bald guy. The serpent was now ready to attack the humans. It launched a powerful charge at them. Smoke filled the cavern. Popsicle used her ice to shield everyone. The chubby guy knew this time they were in serious danger. If he had known the day would end this way, he wouldn't have let his creature enjoy a huge meal beforehand. Since he could understand beast language, he noticed the serpent screaming in pain. Its whole body was in agony. He shared this with our protagonist, who was shocked. For a group claiming to fight for equality, they were simply controlling the weak for their own gain. Even so, the serpent kept attacking desperately. Lindu told Popsicle to freeze the creature and ordered Pebble to use the opening to find its weakness. In seconds, Popsicle managed to freeze the serpent, even though it was higher ranked. This battle had no elemental advantage our boy could really lose. But any technique that boosted power, this much had to come with a downside. Now our boy was going to use his conquest points to strengthen Pebble as much as possible. In his ghost general form, Pebble charged in, but suddenly several stones in the cave began to rise from the ground. He knows Pebble's defense is reduced, so he gave Popsicle a direct order. She needs to cooperate in this attack so Pebble can handle his part in the battle. The stone serpent's strike was blocked by Popsicle's ice. With that, both of Lindu's creatures were finally working together. Their coordination increased so much that it unlocked a joint attack. That system notification left our protagonist stunned. Ice Core Impact, the stone infused with cold energy that shoots toward the enemy at high speed. The charge time determines both energy consumption and resulting impact. He's amazed by the ability, but it requires both creatures to be at the same level and perfectly sensed in movement to execute it. Right now, Pebble is fighting the serpent head-on. Thanks to Popsicle's freezing, he managed to hit a weak point, causing a creature intense agony. The serpent recovered quickly and struck Pebble, but Popsicle protected him with an ice shield. Lindu can tell the fight is getting dangerous. With that attack frequency, Popsicle won't keep up much longer. The mysterious man watches calmly, convinced the humans will lose soon. With no other choice, Lindu told his creatures to use the combined attack. They need to end this fight now. He also told the Gordonho to use his beast to distract the serpent. He needs time to charge a powerful strike. The Gordonho hated the idea, but there's no alternative. Lindu was even harsher. If they waste time, they all die. Motivated by fear, the Gordonho commanded his monster to use its acid attack. The creature spat a ball of corrosive vomit that burned through the serpent's stone scales. Lindu's charged attack was almost ready. A massive stone infused with icy energy formed in the air. Popsicle and Pebble were prepared to finish the fight. He gave the order. The giant ice-charged stone crashed down like a meteor. Ice spread across the cavern, but his shield kept him, the Gordonho, and the Gordonho's creature safe. Then he heard the serpent's cry. Even after that strike, it was still alive. But Lindu needed to know its condition. The Gordonho, able to understand monster speech, realized the serpent was in agony. It was begging for help. There was no choice but to end its suffering. Lindu closed his eyes, gathered spiritual energy into his fingertips, and ended the creature's life as humanely as possible. He earned 1,000 conquest points and several evolution materials. Now Pebble could grow even stronger. The extra items were useful too. But despite all the gains, he felt deeply uneasy about everything that happened. The mysterious man finally approached. He sensed how irritated Lindu was. He said Tamers always rely on killing wild beasts to get materials. But Lindu had no patience for that hypocritical speech. He was ready to go back to violence, but he took a deep breath before acting. He knows hunting is necessary, and when a tamer meets a powerful creature, it often becomes their meal. The world is naturally unfair and full of contradictions. What he truly despises are hypocrites like this man, people who talk about equality and freedom but only want to impose their beliefs on others, exploiting the weak for their own ideals. This symbiosis group is made up of hypocritical people who think they're better than everyone else. The man said they're now at a major crossroads. But that girl who carries demonic energy, she's probably already wishing she could contact him. Our boy realized he was talking about Stacy, and he became completely furious. But that mysterious man is truly devious. That made our protagonist try to attack him. He had Popsicle use her ice chains, but they couldn't catch anything at all because that man had vanished completely. After that whole ordeal, they returned to the academy. Our protagonist couldn't find his cousin, and now he's searching for her in a panic. That was when Becky appeared with the bald guy. She immediately noticed he seemed extremely anxious, while the bald guy still can't understand why she's so concerned about him. Becky decided to get closer to find out the reason, which only made the bald guy even more upset. As soon as she approached Lindu, she asked why he was acting like that. He revealed he had met the man who attacked the bald guy, and he believes the next target will be his cousin. Becky was shocked to hear that because she had seen the girl earlier and knew she had gone to the virtual practice room. Our boy said he was heading there immediately and Becky decided to go with him. Once again, the bald guy was completely ignored and he has no idea why things keep going this way. The chubby guy ended up approaching him to say they had encountered the symbiosis group and that they're planning to attack Stacy. The bald guy erupted with rage. He won't let something like this happen to anyone, and he decided he's going to help. Now all of them are looking for Stacy, who still hasn't shown up. Seeing the commotion, the long-haired guy said he knows where she is right now, but demanded that our protagonist beg for it. Maybe if he's in a good mood, he'd give the answer. But our boy was consumed by a murderous intent and forced the long-haired guy to spit out the truth. After being brutally intimidated, he admitted that he had seen her earlier. She and Buttercup had gone to buy materials for their beasts. Our protagonist called the other girl, but her phone didn't connect. So he told the chubby guy to alert the academy because everyone needs to start searching for her immediately. Stacy finally woke up. Something had happened. She had no idea where she was, and right in front of her, she could see Buttercup unconscious. Only then did Stacy realize that her body was restrained. In front of her stood a masked man, but she got no idea who these people were or why she'd been captured. When she demanded answers, the masked man said he'd like to be friends with her. He claimed they were members of the symbiosis group, but Stacy would never become friends with people who kidnapped her like that. She tried to summon her Firebird, thinking she could easily break free from the plant-type creature binding her. But before she could do anything, she felt a surge of intense pain. The hooded man told her she was poisoned, and if she didn't want to become crippled, she better not use her spiritual power. Stacy decided to wait until the poison wore off. She then asked what these weirdos wanted with her. The masked man said the reason was simple. They wanted her to join their organization as well, because they needed her strength to break the shackles of this world. They had heard she possessed a unique technique capable of turning beasts into demons. That's why they needed her cooperation, and why she should answer their upcoming questions sincerely. In truth, her Firebird can transform into a demon, but that's the creature's own ability. The masked one didn't like that answer, and he's convinced Stacy is refusing to tell the truth. So he's going to resort to more specific methods. That left her genuinely terrified, because she really has no idea what they're talking about. In the middle of the interrogation, a door opened in that place. Our boy arrived filled with anger and ordered them to put the girl down. Beside him was a small wolf no one knew the origin of. The moment Stacy saw him, her heart overflowed with joy. The masked captor knows his boss was supposed to meet him in that dimension, so he can't understand why our protagonist is here. Our boy quickly recognized his opponent. They had met in that virtual battlefield. The masked one realized why he had been found. It was because of that mysterious wolf. With its keen sense of smell, it can locate people easily. It belongs to the association's search team. But now that our protagonist is here, the masked one decided he'll capture 2 rabbits at once. His monster started roaring. Stacy warned her cousin to be careful because that creature produces a venom capable of shutting down spiritual power. The tentacles swam toward him, but our boy dodged with ease. Even so, the attacks didn't stop at all. He needed to channel his power to summon his creatures, which now appeared on the battlefield. The masked one said this isn't a virtual battle this time and things might end in a drastic way. His turtle already had its mud defense active. He ordered it to attack, but unlike last time, the creature seemed to be concentrating heat. The villain didn't believe our protagonist stood any chance, and Popsicle was struggling with the flames. The masked one said that if our boy surrendered, he would lose only a few things. Because of the intense heat, he couldn't rely on Popsicle's strength. Pebble would need to be the main attacker. But before this battle, Pebble had already met every condition for evolution. All he needed were the nutrition stones. After consuming them, Pebble began to grow much stronger. His appearance became far scarier. Stacy was shocked that her cousin's creatures evolved so frequently. She also noticed the turtle seemed afraid to enter the fight. The masked one noticed too he had never seen his turtle act like that. Such behavior shouldn't exist. Since they share the same type, there shouldn't be any resistance between them. But Pebble is no longer just an Earth type. After evolving, he awakened earthly majesty, divine intimidation over other Earth-type creatures. That's why the turtle was now slowly panicking, utterly terrified of Pebble. The masked one became furious. The best plan now was to recover the girl and run. The hooded man made his plant creature grab Buttercup and also Stacy, who had already been restrained. But she refused to become a burden to her cousin, and she believed the toxins had worn off. Because of that, she managed to summon her Firebird. The creature destroyed the plant's tentacles, freeing both girls at last. Now that they were safe, Stacy asked our protagonist not to hold back on cruelty against those villains. Their plan had collapsed, and the masked one wanted to escape immediately. To make things easier, he ordered his plant creature to release a poisonous mist, but our boy was already in his homicidal mode. He wasn't going to let that escape happen so easily. Even so, the masked one had already made it outside with the hooded man, both of them desperate. It was such a disastrous outcome that they were already trying to blame someone else. As soon as the masked one understood that our protagonist's creature had evolved, he knew there was no chance of victory. While they tried to run, Pebble caught up to them. Those men were now overwhelmed by intense fear. Pebble is not the kind of creature that enjoys playtime. Unless the play involves violence, Pebble's favorite theme. After everything that happened, Stacy was filled with rage and wanted to know what technique they were talking about when they mentioned turning creatures into demons and what the greater purpose behind that was supposed to be. Our protagonist had encountered that ability before, the one that mysterious man used inside the